Chapter 31:12. When the two of them recovered, they were still going to be sent to prison. There was no point in making a fuss. The Li and Wang families had no choice. They had no connections. They were just ordinary people. Even if they had connections, they wouldn't be able to get it. They didn't know any important people. The two shameless women had disappeared from the face of the earth. They went to the hospital to ask, and the doctor said that they were discharged. As for where the patients went, it was none of their business. How could they know? Now that they saw their son in this state, their hearts ached, but they couldn't do anything. Especially the Wang family. They knew that Wang Jiong had become a useless person. Wang Jiong's mother sat in the corridor of the hospital, slapping her thighs. Threats and begging were useless. What to do? What to do? Could it be that they could only watch? It was strange. The men from the Wang family had raped the granddaughter of the Li family, but the two families didn't fight. Instead, they worked together to find a way out and get their sons out. This kind of spectacle probably wouldn't be seen again. Ning Shu felt that it was quite interesting. Seeing the pain of the two men, Ning Shu felt that this was normal. Being cut by a knife was so painful that their bodies were trembling from the pain. Since they had done it, they had to bear the consequences. The tools were confiscated. Rapists like them should be sentenced to death. They should be severely punished. Let's see who dared to have such thoughts. If they had concerns, they wouldn't dare to hurt others. Their new identities had been revealed. Ning Shu and Su Feng had changed their names. Su Feng had applied for a new passport and changed her residence. Ning Shu found a city far away from this place and went as far as he could. The process took a long time. It was mainly to change all aspects of the identity. After Wang Jiong and Li Jianming were discharged, they would be sent to prison. This kind of small county didn't have a prison. They would be sent to the city or the provincial prison. Li Jianming said that his whole body hurt. If he didn't go to prison, his whole body would really hurt. Everyone thought that Li Jianming was lying to avoid serving his sentence. Even Li Jianming's parents thought that Li Jianming was faking it. But it really hurt. He wasn't faking it. Li Jianming was about to go crazy. Couldn't someone believe him? Why didn't anyone believe him? Li Jianming was so irritable that he wanted to kill someone. He was so irritable that he wanted to destroy everything. Wang Jiong, on the other hand, was like a defeated rooster. He did not resist going to prison like Li Jianming did. In his current situation, he might as well go to prison. He would be laughed at when he returned. Wang Jiong didn't want to admit that this was retribution. What retribution? He just did such a thing to a woman. Weren't women meant to be fucked? Otherwise, it would have been a waste. No matter how angry Wang Jiong was in his heart, his little brother was still the same, soft and useless. He probably wouldn't be able to stand up for the rest of his life. Without the masculinity of a man, he wouldn't be considered a normal man. He wouldn't be able to be with a woman, and he wouldn't be able to carry on the family line. Wang Jiong was a very traditional man. Descendants were very important. If he didn't leave a descendant for the Wang family, then he would be letting down the Wang family. Now, he didn't even have a daughter, let alone a son. Why what? Li Jianming, who was opposite him, seemed to be suffering from mania. He moved around and twitched all over. Wang Jiong looked away in disgust. If it wasn't for Li Jianming's brain, how could things have turned out like this? Why didn't he kill that girl? If she was killed, it would be Li Jianming's fault alone. He was the only one who committed the crime and killed. As for what he did to Li Jing, there was no evidence. No matter how much trouble he made, it wouldn't be on his head. He was such a big man, but he couldn't even kill a little girl. Useless thing. Outside the car, there was the sound of his family members crying and howling. Wang Jiong didn't even look at them. What was the use of crying? Getting them out was the right thing to do. Otherwise, it would be useless even if they cried until they were blind. Li Jing didn't appear. If she appeared, she would have a way to coax a little girl. But she didn't appear even once. His biological father and stepfather were locked up, and they didn't come to visit him even once. It was probably the conflict in court that made Li Jing not come. But if Li Jing didn't come, why didn't Su Feng come to see him? They were forced to divorce, but Wang Jiong was confident that Su Feng wouldn't give up on him. Because Su Feng didn't dare to abandon him. Now that there was a problem with his body, he couldn't find another woman. When he was released from prison, of course, he would still live with Su Feng. The car started and left with the prisoner. The two families watched helplessly as the car drove away. It's all your granddaughter and daughter-in-law's fault. They are a jinx. They caused my son to be like this. Wang Jiong's mother immediately argued with the Li family, asking them to pay for the medical expenses. Her son's surgery cost money. The Li family's people immediately spat. Look at what your son did. He actually did that kind of thing to his stepdaughter. If Wang Jiong didn't do this kind of thing, Jianming wouldn't be so impulsive to kill someone. The two sides started to tear at the entrance of the police station. They blamed each other and instantly fell out. The police even came out to stop the fight. It was really unprecedented for the fight to come to the entrance of the police station. Ning Shu and Su Feng stood on the street opposite the police station and saw it from beginning to end. Su Feng muttered, "Two families have been destroyed. The sons of the two families had been arrested. Without a son to support the family, there would be no one to take care of the two old people in the future. After more than 10 years, who knew what would happen to them?" Ning Shu was already used to Su Feng's kind words for no reason. She said it as if she couldn't bear it and destroyed the two families. What did these two families have to do with her? Could it be that she should forgive them and protect them? How good would it be to be a jinx? No one would dare to provoke her. Su Feng looked at her daughter and realized that there was a faint smile on her face. She didn't know why, but her heart turned cold. She said, "Jing Jing, let's go back. They will find us later." Su Feng had experienced the fighting power of these people. Ning Shu nodded. "Okay, let's go back." Su Feng and Ning Shu smiled. "Jing Jing, Mom, don't say anything. In the future, the two of us will live well. If you have a man you like, you can get married again. You already have a new identity now," Ning Shu said calmly. He didn't know if Su Feng was a scumbag. He didn't know what kind of man she would meet in the future. He just hoped that Su Feng wouldn't meet a man and rush for a result. When you meet a person, you will pour your heart out. You think this is straightforwardness. No, this is just loneliness. Loneliness makes you pour your heart out completely, afraid that the other party will be dissatisfied. Chapter 31:13. To be honest, Ning Shu was a little afraid of Su Feng. She was afraid that Su Feng would find a father for her. She didn't want her to become a fatherless child because she didn't want her to have no father to call her. Some people didn't learn from their mistakes. Even if something like this happened, they wouldn't reflect on themselves. They would just continue living like this. Hence, some ugly words had to be said first. She didn't want Su Feng to pull her into another fire pit right after she had jumped out of the fire pit. Ning Shu looked at Su Feng, making her feel uneasy. She then said, "Mom, I think we need to set some rules. Some things have to be said clearly to prevent something like this from happening again. No one can withstand another round of destruction like this. If it happened again, they might as well all die together." She worked so hard just to live a little better. In the end, it happened again, over and over again. What was there to live for? Su Feng nodded. "Go on," Ning Shu said. "You can have a boyfriend, but don't get married before I turn 18. Please don't get married. Although I have no right to interfere with you, we are a family. Moreover, the two of us depend on each other. We have to consider each other's feelings. I only have one request for you. If you can do it, we will live together. If you can't, then we don't have to live together." Su Feng nodded. "I can do it. I can do it. Jing Jing, don't worry. I will definitely do it." Scum suckers lacked a sense of security. When she saw someone treat her slightly better, she would stick to them and suck warmth from them. Even if they weren't warm in the end and even cold, she was already used to this person. Habits were inseparable from this person. Ning Shu even made a contract for Su Feng to sign. Su Feng was a little unhappy. "Jing Jing, do you have so little faith in Mom? Since Mom has agreed, I will definitely do it." Ning Shu said, "I don't want to be raped again." Su Feng was a little sad and said, "Jing Jing, not everyone in the world is bad. Not everyone is like your Uncle Wang. We will also meet good people. You can't be so pessimistic. You can't lose hope in the world just because of what happened. What? I'm pessimistic? I haven't even called you childish. Regardless of whether there are many good people or bad people in this world, we have to live our own lives first. Do you expect a good person to appear and save them? Ning Shu felt that he might not be able to communicate with Su Feng. It was easy to deal with the two men, but Su Feng was probably the most difficult person to deal with. Do you think she's wrong? She didn't do anything wrong. In fact, from a certain point of view, she could be considered a good person. She didn't do anything evil. But it was so stifling. Ning Shu sneered and retorted, "If you were raped, what would you do? What would you think?" Su Feng was stunned and couldn't answer because she didn't know what to do. At that time, it would be like the sky had collapsed. That's why I'm quite good at blabbering. What if it happens to you? Is there any point in boiling rancid chicken soup? She preferred listening to poisonous chicken soup, which made her feel refreshed. Su Feng immediately apologized. "Jing Jing, I was wrong." Then she signed the contract. "I promise that I will never get married in this lifetime." Ning Shu said, "There's no need. Just stick to it for 6 years." Words like "a lifetime" were enough. Some thoughts were deeply ingrained in one's bones and couldn't be pulled out. It was just that their views were different. She was probably a selfish person. She was obviously selfish and thinking for herself. Su Feng, on the other hand, was a person who was willing to contribute. Although she liked to find excuses to cover up her selfishness, she understood that her actions were for others and that she had no choice but to do so. The next step was to pack up and leave this place. When they left, they took the train. They couldn't afford to take a plane. Su Feng clung tightly to Ning Shu. She was obviously very afraid of the outside world. Ning Shu reached out and patted her. It was better to rely on her than to rely on a man. In the future, she would have to make decisions on big and small matters, even if she found a man in the future. If she didn't agree, Su Feng would definitely not dare to get married. Taking Su Feng along ensured the client's life. She was too young and couldn't earn money. Although she was a guardian without ideas, at least she had a guardian, even if this guardian was just an empty shell. Orphans were too miserable. Therefore, she and Su Feng were in a relationship of mutual benefit. She didn't know how much feelings there were between them. Ning Shu took Su Feng to the registered residence and prepared to settle down here. It wasn't a big city. The cost of living in a big city was too high. They didn't even have a house to live in. Ning Shu found a small hotel to stay in first, then looked for a rental. In this situation, they could only find a rental. 1 bedroom and 1 living room were good enough. The mother and daughter could squeeze into 1 room to sleep. Su Feng's ability to adapt was probably a little weak. Ning Shu talked to the landlord about the room, carried the bags in, and cleaned. Su Feng was still in a daze. When she saw Ning Shu cleaning, she immediately took the broom from his hand. "Jing Jing, let me do it. You're still injured. Let me do it." Ning Shu didn't force her. He handed the broom to her and then went to the kitchen to boil water. He was thinking about how to live next. He definitely had to continue studying, but it was impossible to rely on Su Feng alone. Su Feng didn't have the ability to pay for the house's utilities. Even if she found a job, it would be as a cleaner or a factory worker. Therefore, the family had to have extra income. But she was still young. What could she do? A good job was not picky about age. A hero was stumped by a penny. She couldn't do it without money. Ning Shu asked Su Feng, "Mom, how much money do you have?" Su Feng took out all the money. It was quite a lot, but it was all pocket money. There were a few large notes. Overall, it wasn't much. Su Feng said, "Don't worry. I'll find a job soon." Don't find one yourself. Spend some money to find an intermediary. An intermediary was the fastest. Su Feng didn't have any objections. Ning Shu really couldn't think of anything to do. Open an online shop? Or write a small article, submit it, create a public account or something. But all these had to be related to the internet. He couldn't do it without a computer. But the most important thing now was to contact a school. She had just graduated from primary school and had to continue studying. Su Feng found a job as a cleaner in a shopping mall through an intermediary. The salary wasn't high, but it was quite tiring. Su Feng was quite satisfied. She said that it was higher than the salary at home. Ning Shu had already contacted the school. The student registration was still the same, but the name was changed. He pulled Su Feng, the guardian, to go through the procedures. Ning Shu was struggling to survive. The two men in prison were living a life worse than death. Li Jianming's body was in pain. The doctors couldn't find anything. Chapter 31:14. The prison guards all thought that Li Jianming was pretending to be sick and deliberately causing trouble. No one believed him. Li Jianming was in so much pain that he wanted to harm himself. However, there were no tools for self-harm in prison, except for forks and chopsticks when eating. Li Jianming used the fork to stab his own hand. If he was injured, he must be treated. Wang Jiong just sneered. He hated Li Jianming very much because Li Jianming had exposed him not long after he came to the prison. There were many vicious people in the prison. Sometimes, even the prison guards would give them some face. Generally, newcomers would be trained for a period of time. As for how to train, there were many ways. Anyway, they had to train you to be obedient. Moreover, there were no women in prison. Men could not ignore their own physiological reactions. It was normal for that kind of thing to happen at this time. However, it was so rough without any preparation and tools. It was easy to be torn apart. Li Jianming was not good looking, so he was not treated like this at first. Wang Jiong was white and fat, so it was normal for him to be tortured. Moreover, during the process, Wang Jiong's little brother did not stand up, which made these people laugh. In the end, you can't even do it. Brother, are you castrated? Men competed in power, wealth, and men's ability. If a man's ability was not good, he would be mocked to death by the same sex. While torturing Wang Jiong, they even pulled his soft little brother, which made Wang Jiong so ashamed that he wanted to die. Li Jianming's fierceness was only aimed at women and his subordinates. Here, there were many fierce characters. Of course, Li Jianming was scared. He exposed Wang Jiong's past, including Wang Jiong's impotence. There was also an ecological chain in prison. Rapists should be the most discriminated and despised. There were women on the street. Although it was immoral, it was not worth it to enter prison for this reason. Prisoners probably had the mentality of a hero. Rape, killing parents, and killing children would be despised. Some people, in order to humiliate this kind of rapist, dug a small hole on the ground and filled it with something. As for what to fill it with, of course, it was the rapist's crime tool. They would fill it with white sauce. However, although Wang Jiong was despised, Li Jianming was also despised. So what if he killed his own daughter? In short, these two people were like brothers in distress. They were often bullied and had to do all kinds of things, such as cleaning toilets. Sometimes they would be bullied by others. Serving a sentence was not the most painful thing. Instead, it was dealing with the demons and monsters in the prison. Among these people, there were murderers, embezzlers, and gangsters. With background, strength, and connections, Wang Jiong and Li Jianming were ordinary people, so they had no connections. They weren't as ferocious as these people, who were tortured to death every day. Li Jianming's body was in pain, and Wang Jiong was called soft and squishy by others. All sorts of insulting nicknames were used. Seeing Li Jianming stick a fork into his hand, Wang Jiong just ate silently. He had a lot to do every day. If he didn't eat his fill, he would be hungry for a long time. Li Jianming's self-mutilation quickly attracted the attention of the prison guards. Some of the prisoners looked at Li Jianming with their legs crossed. Li Jianming was sent for treatment and would not return to prison for the time being. Wang Jiong became the target of torture. What was originally done by two people was now done by him alone. If he resisted, he would be beaten up violently. These old foxes already knew where the prison's blind spots were. They would drag him over and beat him up. Li Jianming said emotionally that his body was in pain. His whole body was in pain. He wanted a checkup. It was really painful. But even after a checkup, there were still no major problems. Li Jianming was so angry that he hit his head against the wall to prove that he wasn't lying. His body was in pain. Being held back, Li Jianming became emotional and cried out loud. "I'm telling the truth. You have to believe me. Believe me." The doctors looked at each other. They all suspected that this was Li Jianming's imagination. There was something wrong with his brain. They really had to do a mental evaluation. This prisoner was holding his head and saying that he had a headache. The next moment, he was holding his chest and saying that his heart was in pain. His expression was irritable and fearful. The more they looked at him, the more he looked like a lunatic. Maybe he was imagining the pain to escape punishment. It was like a lunatic. He always felt that someone was talking in his ear and all kinds of hallucinations appeared in front of his eyes. During the mental evaluation, Li Jianming swore that his body was in pain. It was real. It wasn't an illusion. It wasn't an illusion. But other people couldn't feel the pain in his body. They didn't know if what he said was true or false. But the medical evaluation said that there were no lesions or pain in his body. Of course, the medical evaluation was more trustworthy. Ouch, it's hurting again. It's hurting again. Li Jianming hugged his head. It was so painful. His face was hideous. His expression looked like he was going crazy. The psychiatrist waved his hand and a fresh mental evaluation came out. Li Jianming still wanted to refute. But when he heard that he didn't have to go to jail and was going to be sent home, he didn't refute that he wasn't crazy. If he could escape from prison, it would definitely be good. He wouldn't have to face the evil people in prison for more than 10 years. It was said that it wasn't illegal for a lunatic to kill someone. With the lunatic's exemption, he wouldn't let Li Jing go. Not only Li Jing, Su Feng wouldn't be able to escape either. Li Jianming was sent home. The Li family was very happy. But when they heard that he had a lunatic, they were stunned. This was impossible. Their son was fine. How could he have a lunatic? A lunatic was a lunatic. How could their son be a lunatic? Regardless of whether the Li family believed it or not, Li Jianming had already been stamped as a lunatic. A lunatic had to be watched carefully and not let him do anything out of line. After the government people left, Li Jianming's mother chattered and asked her son, "What's going on? How did you go crazy? Did you suffer in prison? This matter can't be let go." Li Jianming was already very unhappy. His ears were full of chattering. It was so annoying. "Shut up, don't talk. Where's Su Feng and that bitch? Anyway, she was a lunatic. It wasn't illegal to kill someone. They're gone. They ran away when you got into trouble. Son, you've really suffered." Li Jianming was impatient to listen to this. He directly interrupted his parents. The pain in his body made him very impatient. The torture of pain was enough to distort his mind. When the parents saw their son rolling on the ground for no reason and wailing like a beast, it was especially frightening. They had no choice but to lock Li Jianming up. They didn't dare to let Li Jianming go out like this. Not only would he be laughed at, but he might also kill someone. Chapter 31:15. When they woke up in the middle of the night and saw Li Jianming sharpening a knife, the two of them were scared to death. Their son was really crazy. They could only lock the door from the inside. But when Li Jianming woke up, he banged on the door and roared in the room. It was scary. They didn't dare to let Li Jianming out. Although Li Jianming was released from prison, he was still locked at home by his family and couldn't leave. The more irritable he was, the more his family didn't dare to let him out. In the end, they even chained him up and didn't dare to go to his room, including Li Jianming's parents. Li Jianming wailed in his room when he had nothing to do. Li Jianming clearly knew that he wasn't crazy, but he was labeled as one. He thought that everything would be fine after he was released, but no one believed him. This was the most despairing thing in the world. It wasn't like that. If one person believed him, one person would be good. Li Jianming's attitude towards his parents was also very bad. He repeated that he wasn't crazy, but his parents ran away in panic. They were very afraid of him. Now, Li Jianming's appearance was really scary. His eyes were red and he would shout at the slightest thing. He looked even more like a lunatic. Ning Shu had expected Li Jianming's situation. After being cut so many times, it didn't hurt. It bled and hurt. On the other hand, Li Jianming pretended to be crazy. In the end, he was really treated as crazy. This was enough for Ning Shu to laugh for a while. The feeling of being the only one who was clear-headed and knew that it wasn't the truth, but it was distorted by everyone. That feeling of being wronged wasn't a good feeling. Ning Shu used some money to buy a second-hand computer and opened an online shop. He used Su Feng's name, but the bank card was in Ning Shu's hands. The online shop sold some small things, like a grocery store. He didn't expect to earn much money. He just wanted to supplement his family's expenses. Occasionally, he would write some articles to earn some royalties. Like elementary and middle school essays, I have a dream, and so on. Or he would write about the scumbags he met over the years and the top quality women he met over the years. The top quality things he did over the years. With some views, he could get some tips. Other than that, Ning Shu still had to go to school and do his homework. Their days were still passable. They scrimped and saved enough to survive. However, Ning Shu was alarmed by Su Feng's recent strange behavior. Every time Su Feng brought lunch, she would bring 2 servings. It had only been half a year since she came to this place. Su Feng seemed to have fallen in love. Would she be able to finish lunch for 2? Ning Shu sighed. It really wasn't easy to make the situation better. Ning Shu didn't disturb Su Feng. Instead, he waited for Su Feng to go to work and went to the mall where Su Feng worked. In the resting area of the mall, she saw Su Feng eating with a man. This man was about 40 years old and was wearing a security guard uniform. They even had a meal together. It would be strange if there was nothing going on between the two of them. Ning Shu did not intend to interfere. As long as the two of them did not get married, he could not be bothered with anything else. Ning Shu originally thought that this quest was quite simple, but he discovered that this quest was not simple at all. Taking revenge on someone was very simple. However, the problems that came one after another were the ones that were more devastating. Ning Shu could remain calm. If it was the client, he would probably jump up. 10 years of fear, afraid of a stepfather. Even if it was for his own peace of mind, he would not agree to Su Feng getting married. He hoped that Su Feng would remember the 6 years. As long as the client was an adult, she could marry anyone she wanted. Ning Shu grabbed his hair. This was really messy. If it really didn't work, he would separate from Su Feng. He would take drastic measures to stay away from Su Feng. He didn't know if Su Feng would tell the man what happened in the past. Would he tell others that the client had been violated? Originally, they had already come to a new place. Ning Shu did not want any rumors to spread. Then, he would have to face the strange looks of the neighbors in the neighborhood. Although she did not care, others looked at her as if she was a monster. She was very unhappy. It was really unpleasant, but it was not a heinous crime. If he was fierce to Su Feng, it would make Su Feng feel wronged. Ning Shu glanced at the couple and turned to leave. From now on, he had to consider the existence of Su Feng in his life. Su Feng came back from the night shift. Seeing that Ning Shu was still playing on the computer, she said, "Jing Jing, stop playing. It's not good for your eyes." Ning Shu closed the computer. "I'm not playing. I'm making money." Su Feng smiled and went to the kitchen to wash the lunchbox as if nothing had happened. Ning Shu was not in a hurry. Su Feng would not be able to hold back. If she wanted to marry that man, she would definitely bring that man to her. Su Feng tried her best to wear nice clothes to work. She had to compare several sets of clothes. She tried them over and over again. Occasionally, she would put on some low-quality lipstick. The fine lines on her face were smoothed out. Ning Shu did not seem to notice these abnormalities. Every day, apart from going to school, he would play with the computer. Both of them had things in their hearts. Su Feng treated Ning Shu better and better. Occasionally, she would give Ning Shu more pocket money so that he could buy some clothes and food. The reason why Su Feng did not buy clothes for her daughter was that her daughter was very independent. She could choose whatever clothes she liked, and it was convenient for her to give money. When she was not at work, Su Feng would also go out. Ning Shu felt that it was almost time. Soon, it would be time for them to officially meet. Su Feng walked with the wind and hummed while doing housework. She was like a withered tree that had come back to life. She was so happy. If she broke up this couple, she would seem cruel. Finally, on a Sunday, Su Feng came to Ning Shu and said, "Jing Jing, let's go out for dinner today. Mom will take you to eat good food. You should wear something nice." As she spoke, she looked for clothes in the closet. Ning Shu thought, here it comes. Counting with her fingers, Su Feng had forgotten about the contract after half a year and 3 months. She had said that she would not get married for the rest of her life. She had probably forgotten about it. This was the way some people lived. To her, this was survival. Ning Shu changed and went to a restaurant. The restaurant was well decorated. At least it was not a small restaurant. A man waved at them. Su Feng looked a little uneasy. She was afraid that Ning Shu would leave, so she pulled Ning Shu over. Come, sit down. The man hurriedly asked Ning Shu to sit down. Ning Shu sat down. Su Feng breathed a sigh of relief. She sat beside Ning Shu and said to the man, Old Zhao, this is my daughter. Jing, call Uncle Zhao. Ning Shu said, Sawadika. This Uncle Zhao smiled. Su Feng could not sit still. It was as if Ning Shu was a bomb that could explode at any time and blow people up. That incident was enough to tell his daughter's personality. He was afraid that his daughter would flip the table. But if he had told her in advance, she definitely would not have come. Chapter 31:16. What does Jing like to eat? You can order. The man handed the menu to Ning Shu. Ning Shu glanced at him and took the menu. She didn't stand on ceremony and ordered a few dishes. As for the price, it was slightly more expensive. Su Feng was tugging at Ning Shu's clothes under the table. Ning Shu turned around and looked at her in confusion. What's wrong? Can't I order? Didn't you say you'd order for me? I won't order then. Who was she trying to save money for? What was she afraid of? Su Feng was instantly embarrassed. She looked at Ning Shu with pleading eyes. You can order, the man quickly said. The man said hurriedly. He looked like an honest man. Besides, he also ordered an expensive ice cream for Ning Shu. Su Feng quickly said, How can a child eat such expensive ice cream? You don't have to order such expensive ice cream. Ning Shu let out a long breath. She wanted to fight for Su Feng, but her behavior really made Ning Shu speechless. What was the big deal about eating ice cream? Just how low was he going to go with his attitude? Ning Shu put down the spoon of ice cream and didn't eat any more. Fortunately, it was Ning Shu. If it had been anyone else, they would have been dragged here by their mother to meet a man, who was also a stepfather, without knowing anything. Who knew what would happen? Ning Shu said, Then I'll leave first. You guys take your time. The man immediately said, Sit down. It's just ice cream. There are even 10 ice creams. Don't listen to your mother. Ning Shu said, Who are you scolding? The man was confused. I'm not scolding anyone. The atmosphere was very awkward. Ning Shu went straight to the point and said, I know what you mean. The man said that he wanted to marry Su Feng. Ning Shu was very calm. She calmly understood the man's situation. This man's wife had died of an illness. He had a son who was about to go to university. His parents had already passed away. Even if Su Feng married him, she wouldn't be able to take care of her in-laws. The man promised to take good care of Ning Shu. Ning Shu said indifferently, You can get married, but I won't live with you. Just give me some living expenses every month. When I'm 18, you don't have to give me any more. Jing. Su Feng looked at her. I can live on my own. Just give me some living expenses every month. Ning Shu felt that if he continued to stay with Su Feng, he would really collapse. I'm fine with living alone. As for safety, I'm sorry, I have time for that. He would give Su Feng some living expenses and earn some money to live on. After Su Feng got married, they would move immediately. She didn't want Su Feng to use her nest as an escape route and come looking for her whenever she had nothing to do. It was as good as being broken. In the future, when it was time to support him, he would just transfer the money to his card. The school was going to have a parent-teacher conference, so Su Feng had to be called. Even if she didn't go, it was fine. When Su Feng heard that her daughter agreed to her marriage, she was very happy. On the way back, she insisted that Ning Shu go to the Zhao family with her. Now that we have a new home, let's go to the new home. We'll be a family. A family together with a beautiful woman. Isn't that what people want? Ning Shu said, I'm not going. I know that feelings can't be stopped. The promise in the past doesn't mean anything. But let me go to the Zhao family. If I don't go, either you don't get married or don't let me go to the Zhao family. But I'm worried about you being alone. I'm fine. Ning Shu didn't want to bicker with Su Feng anymore. Later on, he would pin the reason for the marriage on her head and say that he got married because of her. In the end, Su Feng married that man and left the rented house. Before leaving, Ning Shu warned, "Don't talk about the past everywhere. Don't talk to your new husband and say that I'm like this because I was hurt in the past. Don't use me as a topic." The couple lay on the bed and chatted. He said that his daughter was very good. There was a reason why she was so cold. It was because she was hurt in the past. As for what hurt she was, blah blah blah. You probably don't want people to know that you used to have 2 husbands, right? Ning Shu didn't want people to care for her or despise her for no reason. Su Feng's wrist was pinched by Ning Shu and it hurt a little. She said, "I know, Jing Jing. I won't tell anyone about this." Ning Shu let go of her hand and straightened the corsage in front of her. She said, "Then I wish Mom happiness and that you and Uncle Zhao will grow old together." Su Feng nodded. "Thank you, Jing Jing. Jing Jing, Mom is sorry." Ning Shu said, "What's done is done. Why are you saying this now?" Was she supposed to say that she was fine and that Mom was happy? It was enough that she agreed. She still wanted people to congratulate her happily. She didn't want to take advantage of everything. Sure enough, Su Feng stopped talking. The groom came to take her away. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. They were finally gone. She quickly packed her things and left. Before the 2 of them got married, Ning Shu had refunded the rent and found a new house. She didn't tell Su Feng. From then on, she lived alone. She wasn't a real child. Every month, Su Feng would send some living expenses over. She called Ning Shu to ask how he was doing. Ning Shu said that he was just SOSO and couldn't be considered bad. He couldn't say that he was doing very well just to reassure Su Feng. Su Feng should know that his life wasn't that good. She must have known. She just wanted to hear some nice words to comfort herself. Without Su Feng in front of him, Ning Shu's life was quite simple and comfortable. However, the money that Su Feng sent to her had been decreasing. In the end, when it reached a certain amount, she would only send a little bit every month. She understood that Su Feng had a family to take care of. Ning Shu didn't ask her for money. He just recorded all the transfers. When he became an adult in the future and had the ability, he would return the money to her. In this world, Ning Shu actually stayed for 4 years. Moreover, the client didn't say anything about coming back. It wasn't until he was 16 that the client said that she would come back. During this period, Ning Shu finished junior high school and started high school. At the age of 16, even if he wasn't 18 yet, he could still work. It wasn't considered child labor. He had some ability to survive. When he was 12 or 13 years old, it was indeed difficult for ordinary children to survive. Moreover, it was a little impossible to earn money while studying. In these 4 years, Su Feng gave birth to a child. It was a boy. During the 1-month-old celebration, Ning Shu even went. Seeing the smile on Su Feng's face, Ning Shu didn't say anything. It was a good thing that someone was willing to take over Su Feng. Su Feng was focused on her son and husband and wouldn't bother her. However, the family that Su Feng married again was really poor. The restaurant and ice cream were just the man's face. The man's son was in college and almost spent all the family's money. Although the son was working now, his salary wasn't much. He was about to buy a house and marry a wife. The family's finances were very tight. Su Feng gave birth to another son, which would only make the family's finances even more tight. Chapter 31:17. Su Feng's new husband did not have a good family background. It could be seen from the living expenses he gave her. Usually, Su Feng had a salary and the living expenses were paid by Su Feng. However, the living expenses were getting less and less. In the beginning, Su Feng felt uneasy and embarrassed. She called Ning Shu and told him that the family was a little tight. Ning Shu did not expect Su Feng to give him this little money to live. Ning Shu did not say anything. Later, Su Feng gave him very little self-righteously. It was estimated that all the living expenses were used to support the family. In addition, the man's son was studying in university and needed money. The money he earned was used to support the family. Now that the eldest son was working, it was going to be a big event in his life. He was going to get married and have children. He wanted a new house. Did he want the new daughter-in-law to squeeze with the family in such a shabby neighborhood? The house was not big either. The house was very small. If there were more people, it would be very crowded. Buying a house required a lot of money. Ning Shu heard from Su Feng that the man wanted to sell the old house and buy a new one. It was going to be the wedding house for the eldest son. Ning Shu was stunned. Not to mention whether such a shabby house could be sold and how much it could be sold for. Where would Su Feng live if there was no house? Where would she live if there was no house? Su Feng said that she could rent a house. She would be able to get by slowly. Ning Shu was speechless. Even if they sold it and bought a new house, they would need to renovate it. The wedding gift would require a large sum of money. It could be said that the family had been emptied. Now that she had given birth to a child, the child would have to face a poor living environment. He would have to scrimp on food and clothes. However, Su Feng was very happy. She probably felt proud because she had given birth to a son. Li Jianming had said that she was a hen that could not lay eggs. However, had Su Feng thought about how much money it would cost to raise a child? The child was not just born. If the child was still studying in university, it would cost another 500,000 to 1 million yuan. It was not just born. The diapers were all cloth. It was not even wet diapers. The child's butt would be red. Ning Shu would occasionally bring some diapers and baby products over. To be honest, it was hard to be Su Feng's child. Moreover, Su Feng tried to curry favor with her eldest son, but her eldest son was very cold to her. Sometimes, Su Feng would even try to curry favor with him. Who knew what she was trying to achieve? She probably wanted to move her stepson. She would do whatever her husband said. If he said to sell the house, she would sell the house. In that case, her salary would be used for the living expenses of her eldest son. To curry favor with others and mistreat their own children, they probably thought that there was no need for them to stand on ceremony. However, this house had nothing to do with Su Feng. It was the Zhao family's real estate and had nothing to do with Su Feng. Even if they wanted to sell it, they wouldn't ask for her opinion. So what if she objected? This house wasn't hers. They were very poor. This child would have a hard life in the future. He was born at an old age. His parents were already old and could not do much work. What could they use to support him? Moreover, when this child grew up, perhaps one of them would pass away first. Ning Shu simply wanted to cover her face. She put down the things and talked to Su Feng for a while before leaving. Anyway, she was not going to live with Su Feng. Whether Su Feng's life was happy or unhappy in the future had nothing to do with her. A married mother was like water that had been poured out. Ning Shu had lived in this world for 4 years. During these 4 years, she had relied on herself to earn money and live. To be honest, living a life of worrying about money was very difficult. She did not even have the financial freedom to eat and drink. What fun was there in life? However, she did not need to eat and drink, but she still needed money to do other things. No matter what class she was, she had things to worry about. After returning to the system space, Ning Shu opened her arms and looked at her soul power. Was it still so weak? Ning Shu sat cross-legged and began to absorb the soul power. After absorbing for a while, her soul was slightly better, although it was still faintly discernible. Ning Shu picked up the mirror and looked at her face. Previously, her head had exploded, but there were no sequelae. She was still so beautiful. Such a beautiful face could not be ruined. Beautiful things needed to be well protected, especially on her own body. Admiring her beautiful face, Ning Shu opened the attribute panel. At the same time, the chat system rang. Ning Shu, system, what's the message? Read it out for me. It's a message from Zuli. He said that he has something to talk to you about. Go to Time City. There's also a message for you to do volunteer work. There's the location of the space node. Ning Shu replied, oh. She put down the mirror and glanced at the attribute panel. Name, Ning Shu, age, 27, rank, Super Mission Taker Points card, 2,425, 10 million points per card. Soul, 321 life, 291 wisdom, 401 luck, 261 charm, 161 mental power, 411 martial power, 291 qualifications, 361 faith, 240, 000/10, 000 merit, 15, 000 soul strength, 11-8 authorization ticket, 0 pure heart, none comprehended law, water law incarnation, wood law incarnation, space law, earth law incarnation, constructed world, reincarnation world item, calm halo, heart calming pill, amulet 4, upgraded amulet 2, faith bell honorary title, goddess of war, selfless ancestor skills. 5th ring shooting technique, intermediate fighting technique, intermediate level poison technique, beginner level business management knowledge, beginner level code programming, beginner level lawyer skill, sage ghost catching skill, beginner level cooking skill, intermediate level embroidery skill, trash hypnosis aura, mother of the world, queen's blessing, sister model worker, Chen-Shi's blessing, leader aura, grass blessing, best friend for life, Meow Meow Meow's blessing, life-saving hand, Zhu Su's blessing, founding woman, Chen Ermiai's blessing, beauty-in-law, Chen Ning's blessing, bane of the blood clan, Jasmine's blessing, transcending race communication, Bai Sanyang's blessing, brave heart, Wang Ying's blessing, bloodthirsty tyrant, Anai Bingyan's blessing, heart of peace and joy, luck halo, faith halo, longevity. Completed Li Jing's wish. Mission completion rate, 100%. Mission reward, 5 points, 7 attribute points, 70% of soul, 10,000 faith, including the previous world's accumulation. After staying in that world for a long time, he probably had 70% of his soul power. Ning Shu went to see the Cheongsam man first. He didn't know what treasure the Cheongsam man had to show him. Ning Shu originally wanted to make a prophecy, but the prophecy would take away his power, so Ning Shu gave up. Although he didn't have the prophecy imprint, he still had the comprehension of the law of prophecy. Ning Shu's time was up. When he was free, he would come and comprehend the law of time. After all, he had plenty of time. Seeing the Cheongsam man, Ning Shu went straight to the point and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" Chapter 31:18. There's a new world over there. Let's pool our money and buy it together. We can also find some good stuff. Ning Shu said, "If it weren't for the fact that I don't have enough money, I wouldn't have come to you." Ning Shu spread her hands. "Then there's nothing I can do. My account is frozen now. I can't take out a single cent." Cheongsam man. Why was her account frozen? She was speechless. She had never heard of anyone having their account frozen. Most of the money in frozen accounts was used by the organization first. You couldn't spend it. The money would be used by the organization first. Anyway, she had so much money in her account. The organization couldn't deny it. Cheongsam man looked at her from the corner of his eyes. Ning Shu shrugged. "There's nothing I can do. I don't have money." "Do you have anything to sell to get some money?" Cheongsam man said, exasperated. Ning Shu said, "Why don't you give me some money first? If I really find some treasure, I'll sell it and return the money to you." Cheongsam man. "What if you don't find any treasure?" Ning Shu sighed and said, "How can you find treasure on the first try?" Cheongsam man waved his fan very quickly. He probably didn't have much money. If he didn't have money, he couldn't be rich. Ning Shu said, "Then let's meet again next time. We'll go after I get some money." Cheongsam man nodded helplessly. Ning Shu was really curious now. "You really don't have money?" Ning Shu felt that Cheongsam man was a hidden tycoon. Now, the tycoon had to worry about his 3 meals a day. This made Ning Shu feel a little disillusioned. "Are you still the leader of the law?" "Although I don't want to admit it, I've been quite poor recently. I've been dreaming about where to get money." Ning Shu said, "You can still sleep and dream. Isn't that a lot of pressure?" Cheongsam man said, "Will you die if you don't nitpick?" Ning Shu said, "I really don't have much money. My account has been frozen by the main system. Why don't you find someone else to raise the money? Of course, it would hurt if I had to pay the full amount, but if we split it evenly, it wouldn't be much." The man in the cheongsam shook his head. Most of the mission takers are in their own groups, and they have their own selfish motives and interests. Working with people they don't know is a very dangerous thing. It seemed that the incident with the Tree of World had left a bad impression on the cheongsam man. Ning Shu smiled. Do I look that trustworthy? You're flattering me. The man in the cheongsam waved his hand and signaled Ning Shu to leave. Even if the two of them got together and chatted, it would be useless. They had no money. If he had money, he would be a bastard. If he didn't have money, others would treat him as a bastard. Ning Shu comforted the cheongsam man. Don't be sad. You're not the only poor person in the world. Those skeletons were craning their necks to look at her, but she couldn't take out anything. Was it awkward? Let's go. I don't want to talk to a poor person. Ning Shu returned to the system space. According to the space node given by the main system, he did his volunteer work and then continued to do missions. The most important thing now was to strengthen his soul. The second level no longer produced soul fluid. The array, which had cost a lot of money to set up, didn't accumulate much soul fluid. It wasn't that there wasn't much, but there was basically none. There hadn't been a drop for a long time. When he came to the damaged area of the plane, Ning Shu took out the bag and stretched out his vines to pick up the fragments. The bag was full and placed beside him. If there was a customer, he could just give the bag to the person. Soon, Ning Shu had a customer. Ning Shu said with a smile, "Please give me the merit grains directly." Once these merit grains were accumulated in the account, they would be frozen and couldn't be used at all. It was better to exchange them directly for merit. Of course, this was more troublesome. Some big bosses were unwilling. Ning Shu said directly, "I only accept merit grains. If it's not merit grains, I won't do this business." The collected merit grains could be added to the skeleton's meals. There were policies and countermeasures. Even if her account was frozen, she could still get merit grains. Anyway, she was the only one who could pick up the merit grains. The other big bosses didn't care about this business. The reason why they let Ning Shu pick up the merit grains was nothing more than to relax. She was the only one. If she didn't use merit grains, she wouldn't do the transaction. Once the merit grains were in her account, she couldn't use them at all. "Little girl, you're bullying your customers." A big boss said, "Why do you need merit grains for something that can be solved with a stroke? Besides, there's a tax on the exchange of merit grains. The organization will lower the price if they collect them." Ning Shu said, "I need merit grains now. In essence, we're doing business. If you can't give me what I want, I won't exchange with you. Don't say that you're bullying your customers." If she talked to these old foxes, she would be led into a trap if she wasn't careful. They even accused her of bullying her customers. It was a fair exchange. What bullying? You can choose not to exchange with me. All right, these big bosses would exchange for some merit grains. Ning Shu used the small sunny pouch to store the merit grains. This small sunny pouch had a huge space inside. It could store many things. If he could fill this space with merit grains, he would be rich. Ning Shu turned and saw Greed. He said calmly, "Why are you still here?" "Ah, the previous punishment has ended. It's normal volunteer work now. I can leave after picking up 100,000. "You don't pay attention to me at all?" Greed asked. Ning Shu controlled the vines to pick up the fragments. During this period, when people came to trade, Ning Shu gave bags of fragments to the customers. "I have many things to do. Why would I pay attention to you? Firstly, I don't like you. Secondly, I don't hate you. Thirdly, I'm not familiar with you." Greed asked, "I heard that your head was smashed by the judge." Greed glanced at the grand uncle who was handling the star stones and asked softly. Ning Shu said, "Why is the main point that my head was smashed?" Greed comforted Ning Shu. "It's okay. It's good that you didn't die. Why did your soul become so weak again? Do you need soul power? Do you want me to help you?" Ning Shu looked at Greed, shook his head and said, "Are you sure you can really get rid of the organization? Can you get rid of the organization by pulling people in?" When he saw the grand uncle, he was like a mouse seeing a cat. Of course, many people were like this. After all, they wanted to kill mission enforcers at the drop of a hat. Who knew if they would be wrongly killed? Greed patted Ning Shu's shoulder, but it went through Ning Shu's shoulder. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Greed laughed and said, "Your soul is really weak. Do you think the slogan, 'Overthrow the organization,' is domineering?" Greed asked. Ning Shu nodded. "Very domineering. You talk about rebellion every day. Why are you so heartless and unreasonable? The organization has been so good to you, and you actually want to overthrow the organization. Without the organization, you wouldn't be where you are today." Greed looked at Ning Shu for a long time without saying anything. He touched his chest and looked a little nauseous. He was probably wondering if it was the right decision to recruit Ning Shu into the faction. Chapter 31:19. Ning Shu's face was as white as a saint's white lotus. "Tell me, you're really heartless and unreasonable. You actually want to overthrow the organization. The organization has given you so much. You're just staying in the organization while trying to overthrow the organization. You're really heartless and unreasonable." Greedy wolf. Stop. What are you saying? It makes me sick. How am I heartless? Are you retarded? When you should be using your brain, you have to use your emotions. I work for the organization and the organization gives me things. That's not right. I work for the organization and I take what I deserve. It's not like I didn't do anything. What does that have to do with me wanting to overthrow the organization? The organization can kill mission enforcers. Who knows how many times I've brushed shoulders with death. I can't even complain about the organization. Ning Shu shook his head. Of course you can't complain. The organization is doing this for your own good. Without the organization, you wouldn't be here today. Without the organization, you'd be in samsara. You're actually so mean to the organization. Aren't you afraid that the organization will kick you out? Greedy wolf rubbed his forehead. The organization won't kick people out. As long as people work, the organization won't care about what you think. I want to be reincarnated. Can I be reincarnated? Fuck, this was the bad thing about girls. It was so strange. The relationship between the organization and these mission enforcers was like the relationship between a ruler and his subjects in ancient times. The ruler could decide their life and death, but the ruler could also kill the ruler. There was no such thing as favoritism. It was nothing more than selling oneself to the royal family. They were slaves of the organization and received glory and wealth. Not to mention, he had to study hard before to be able to compete for power in the imperial court. Some people didn't even have the right to participate in this power game. Forget it, I'm scared. I'm scared. I won't tangle with people who aren't clear-headed. Greedy wolf moved away from Ning Shu. Ning Shu smirked and said, "Be loyal to the organization. Don't overthrow the organization." Ning Shu clenched his fist and cheered him on. "Do your best. Shine for the organization. Don't be so selfish. Be united and protect the organization." Greedy wolf. Are you stupid? What does the organization have to do with me? Ning Shu? Ning Shu said, "Then why did you have to overthrow the organization? I thought you were going to establish a new one." "I only established an organization because I ate too much. Even if a single mission taker is born in a plane, there will still be hundreds of millions of people. Even if one of them dies or encounters an accident, the ones who die will still be the minority. Even if many die, new mission takers will immediately take their place. Basically, the number of mission takers is constant. Where there are people, there will be conflicts. With such a large number of people, there must be many factions. They will fight with each other for resources. Overthrowing the organization is the slogan of our faction. If you want to form a faction, you have to have a core doctrine, right? You have to gather people into a huge group and form a force that can't be ignored. From there, you can compete with other factions for benefits. Ning Shu was speechless. Therefore, the slogan of overthrowing the organization was loud and clear. Those people are ignoring me because my group is too weak. They are treating me like a joke. Girl, we have to look through the surface to see the essence. I am shouting about overthrowing the organization, but I haven't done anything to harm the organization. The organization can't be bothered with the fights below. As long as there are people working, it's fine. It's nothing more than a fight for benefits. Ning Shu was speechless. So, you are the only one in the faction that overthrows the organization? There aren't many people who have entered the upper echelon competition. These people either have already joined a faction, or they're independent. I have to find a branch first and then develop it bit by bit. Although this faction is very young, its future is limitless. Ning Shu listened to Greedy Wolf while picking up the fragments. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a sharp female voice that interrupted his thoughts. He looked in the direction of the voice. Grand Uncle, you bastard! What right do you have to deduct the resources of Area B? A woman in purple emerged from the void. Her voice was heard before she arrived. Everyone saw a purple light flash by, and then a woman stood in front of Grand Uncle. The woman in purple wanted to reach out and grab Grand Uncle's collar, but she thought of something and resentfully put down her hand. She questioned with a cold face, "Why are the resources of Area B so much less this time?" "Ask the main system," Grand Uncle said coldly. The woman in purple was instantly furious. "The main system said that this is your decision. Find out who lost to you. Why are you making trouble with me?" Grand Uncle said. The woman in purple was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. "There aren't enough resources. What do you want me to do? I'm not doing it anymore." Grand Uncle sneered. "You're quite good at being unreasonable. Go find the main person." "Bastards. I was just a little late. Those bastards stole things behind my back." The woman in purple was speechless. She was aggrieved and angry. "There's nothing. What do you want me to do? I'm not doing it anymore. Don't come looking for me." Then, a purple light flashed and disappeared. Ning Shu looked at the place where the purple light disappeared and asked, "Who's that beauty? She couldn't have appeared in a place like this." Tanlang said, "The person in charge of Area B. I guess the resources were stolen this time. She's angry." "You don't know the composition of the organization?" Tanlang looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled. "I don't know. Who knows the rules of the game?" Tanlang said, "If you join a faction, I'll be generous and tell you some things. There are so many planes and they are divided into 12 areas. B, C, D, G, X, 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 and X have their own leaders. An organization only has so many resources. If you have more of a pie, there will be fewer people. In order to compete for resources, whether it's for work or to become stronger, they have to compete. There are many generals like in He. Even if they compete for a little military funding, they will be angry. If there's less, there won't be enough to pay the people below. Like the army, it's also considered a faction. If the people above don't get enough merit points for various military equipment, how can they distribute it to the people below?" Ning Shu said, "I didn't know there was such a thing." Tanlang was silent for a long time. Then, he turned his head and looked at Ning Shu in confusion. It was rare for him to be silent for so long. This time, Tanlang didn't ask Ning Shu to join his organization. Instead, he asked, "Do you think that those generals in He and the people in charge of the areas are all noble and aloof waiting for the organization to distribute resources while he only needs to be noble and aloof?" Chapter 31:20. If you don't ask for these things, they will be taken away by others. If you wait for people to come to you, you will only starve the people below you. Especially when there are many factions in the organization, they have to fight for the benefits of each other's groups. For a bit of resources, you will have to fight until your head bleeds. Just now, that lady was angry because her resources were taken away, but she couldn't do anything. Tanlang was rarely serious. "Previously, I thought you had potential and wanted to absorb you into my faction. Now, it seems that it is indeed not suitable." Ning Shu curled his lips and asked, "Why is it not suitable?" "I am afraid that one day, when it is time to fight for benefits, you will cry at the negotiating table and say that you are all so cold and unreasonable. Wow, you are all so selfish. Maintain this young girl's heart." Tanlang turned and left. It seemed that he had given up on the idea of absorbing Ning Shu into his faction. Ning Shu stuck out his tongue. He finally disgusted Tan Lang and left. He understood some of the inner workings of the organization. There were many factions. Just like now, the big shots around him might be from different factions. The organization did not care about these factions at all. According to Zheng Qing, this organization was like a toy. Since it was a toy, it could be destroyed when it was tired of playing with it. Ning Shu did not need to find a faction. How it was before, it was now the same as before. She would not die, so she did not care about these things. Even if this organization was destroyed, she would not die. When this sea of law dried up and died, a new sea of law would be born. As for whether Taishu and Jingqing died or not, it had nothing to do with her. She could leave the organization at any time. Now, she was doing missions, obtaining soul power, and trading fairly with the organization and the person who entrusted her. Her immortality was not given by the organization. Ning Shu suddenly wanted to go to the bugs to take a look. On the battlefield, he did not understand these bugs well enough. It was just that their vitality was quite tenacious, so he wanted to take a look. He did not know what latitude those bugs lived in. Eating planes was like eating cabbage. Ning Shu rested her chin on her hand as she controlled the vines. Her thoughts had already drifted far away. Hey! Someone greeted Ning Shu. Ning Shu turned around and saw that it was Ah Wan. Why was she here? Were there already rules so soon? You have a rule? Ning Shu asked. Ah Wan smiled. I was lucky. This was not luck. He felt that Ah Wan had just said that she wanted to make rules, and now she already had the rules. Ning Shu said, sit down. Did you come by yourself? Ah Wan nodded. There was probably only one person she knew here. Ah Wan sat beside Ning Shu. I didn't expect you to be here. Ning Shu only said, my footsteps are more messy, my walking pace is far from yours. Don't look at how they both stayed here. Ah Wan had constructed her own space. As for her, she was the first to comprehend the laws. She could not do it herself and had to seek help from others. Ning Shu could not help but size Ah Wan up. 12 nomological imprints on her body. It felt like her entire body was covered in tattoos. Ah Wan saw that the others were picking up the shards and also picked up the bags to pick up the shards. Only then did she start picking up the shards. Ah Wan was having a hard time. You're quite comfortable like this. There are so many vines to pick up. Ah Wan said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu shook his head. I want to pick up 1,000,000. Ah Wan did not ask further and began to pick up the fragments. When she was tired, she could not help but say, I worked hard to become stronger. I thought there would be a different scenery, but in the end, this is what I'm doing. Very disillusioned. Ning Shu shrugged. Weak and simple jobs. Strong and difficult jobs. That was how it was. However, there was a girl who could talk, and a beautiful girl at that. Ning Shu was very happy. He could chat with her. When the grand uncle finished dealing with the star stones, Ning Shu asked, do you have extra star stones? I'll buy them. Anyway, he had merit grains on him. They were all rewards for picking up fragments. After a long time, Ning Shu did not want to be stingy. Anyway, he had so much time to earn money for himself. Time was money. In the past, he had been stingy because he wanted to save up so that he could become stronger quickly and not die. Now that his wish had been fulfilled, he could relax. Grand uncle, no. Since there was no more, Ning Shu did not ask any more. He just picked up some scraps when the planes were fused. However, Ning Shu found that there were people competing for the scraps he picked up. They were the souls in military uniforms. Ning Shu could not help but ask if his army was really short of military funds. Well, now he had to pick up the scraps faster. It was so slow that he could not catch up with the hot ones even if he ate shit. Because of the competition, Ning Shu received very few star stones. It seemed that he still had to spend money to buy them. After the planes were stuck together, the grand uncle said to Ning Shu, you changed shifts. Ning Shu, the main system hasn't notified me yet. The grand uncle said, it will be notified soon. Then he left. After picking up the fragments, he dealt with the star stones. The most important thing was that he could not use money because his account was frozen. Of course, the main system sent a string of numbers to his account. He could only look and not use it. Ning Shu hurriedly called out to the granduncle. The granduncle stopped and turned to look at her. Is there anything else? Ning Shu asked, can you unfreeze my account? I can't use any money, and I can't spend any money. I can't use any of the money from handling the star stones and picking up the fragments. I have a problem with that. I can work, but I can't use money. He froze her account in a domineering manner. The granduncle just said, apply to the main system and then leave. Ning Shu reached out her hand. Wait. The granduncle, what's the matter? Ning Shu had a compassionate expression. The light of the Holy Mother enveloped her and her eyes were moist. I wonder how Jingqing is doing right now. I really want to see him. Please take me with you. Of course, I will process the star stones 10 times for free. If I don't see him, I will always be thinking about him. I can't eat well or sleep well. I have to see if he is doing well. After all, we have worked together for a long time. Ning Shu looked at the void at a 45-degree angle with sadness. The granduncle. Don't worry. He is doing well. Ning Shu shook her head wildly. No. I won't believe it if I don't see him doing well with my own eyes. If Jingqing was doing well, it would be a pity that she died once. She really wanted to go to Jingqing. Even if she couldn't do anything to him, she wanted to make him feel depressed. And she had a question to ask Jingqing. Jingqing had absorbed so many souls. Did the souls of those who had contact with Jingqing or those who had contact with her have been absorbed? Since it had been absorbed by Jingqing, it was certain that its soul had been destroyed. One soul might be weak, but many souls could still provide a lot of energy. Sand could form a tower. Chapter 31:21. In the plane, she had met some people by chance. Jingqing had absorbed so many souls. Her soul had been absorbed by Jingqing. She wondered if the souls of the people who had come into contact with her had also been absorbed. She must have done something to those people. There were some questions that had to be asked clearly in his heart. The granduncle sneered. You're not going to see him. You're going to hit him when he's down. Ning Shu made an "oh" sound and suddenly realized, so he was really caught. It seemed that he had really been pressed into the law of nothingness. How satisfying. Ning Shu shook his head and said seriously, I'm not going to hit him when he's down. I'm really going to visit him. How about I bring a bouquet of flowers? The granduncle raised his eyebrows. Why should I bring you? Ning Shu just said, this isn't a negotiation. Tell me your conditions. Forget it. I'm not going. Ning Shu waved his hand and went back to deal with the star stones. He didn't have to see Jingqing. He had already received the news that Jingqing had been filled into the law of nothingness. He couldn't absorb her soul anymore. No, he couldn't be bothered to go. If he dealt with the star stones for free 10 times, he would get 1 million merit points. 1 million merit points could be exchanged for 1,000 merit points. Even if he couldn't exchange for 1,000 merit points, he would still get more than 900. No, he wasn't going. Jingqing wasn't that shameless to waste his money just to see him once. Ning Shu picked up the tool to deal with the star stones and started scraping the star stones on the fragments. It was easier to deal with the star stones now. His soul wouldn't be hurt by the rebound power of the star stones. Especially now that his soul was so weak. The granduncle narrowed his eyes. You're the one who said you're going. You're the one who said you're not going. Ning Shu shrugged and didn't stop. At first, I wanted to do it for free. But after thinking about it, it wasn't worth it, so I didn't want to go. If he wanted to go, he would go. If he didn't want to go, he wouldn't go. Jingqing wouldn't be refined so easily. He just needed to see him before he died. There was no need to see him so early. Senior granduncle, deal with star stones for free 1,000 times, and I'll take you there. 1,000 times would mean 100 million merit points. Seeing the principal minister once would cost 100 million merit points. If he couldn't afford to see the principal minister, 1,000 times would probably take a long time. Oh, I'm not going. I'm relieved to know that he's doing well. It doesn't matter whether I see him or not. Ning Shu refused directly. Jingqing's life and death had nothing to do with her. If Jingqing really did that, the matter would be irreparable. spending 100 million to ask a question that would make him feel uncomfortable. She didn't want to do this kind of stupid thing. Moreover, Zheng Qing might not tell her the truth. She could do it 1,000 times for free, but Zheng Qing was not worth it. He was covered in diamonds and looked expensive. When you go, help me send a bouquet of flowers. Thank you. I'll give you the money later. Ning Shu stopped talking to the Grand Elder and focused on handling the star stones. Senior Uncle Tai wasn't a person who bargained with others. When he heard Ning Shu's refusal, he disappeared and left. Ning Shu sped up handling the star stones and then asked the system to apply to unfreeze his account. Handling the star stones hurt his soul, but the money he earned couldn't be used. It deliberately made him feel suffocated. It wanted the horse to run and didn't eat grass. The backup system said to Ning Shu. The main system said that it can't be unfrozen immediately. Please wait patiently. Ning Shu, hee. Next time, he would still pick up fragments. The customer who picked up the fragments would at least give him real money and merit grains that he could hold in his hand. It wasn't a string of numbers that couldn't be used. Wan walked to Ning Shu and asked, "Not only are you picking up fragments, but you're also handling here?" Ning Shu smiled at Wan and said, "This isn't a good job. It hurts the soul. I'd rather pick up fragments." It was Wan's first time picking up fragments. She looked a little tired and sat down. "Why are there so many fragments?" "You'll get used to it." She also felt that it was hard to bear. She had a star stone that supported her to comprehend merit. She thought that she could get some star stones if she came to pick up fragments. She got some scraps and realized her dream. Plus, she bought star stones and got the law of nothingness of the peerless martial arts. There was no compulsory work before. Now there is such a compulsory work. Sigh. Wan shook her head. In the past, other than doing tasks, she could do whatever she wanted. Now, when she had free time, someone urged her to complete the volunteer activities. No big boss is willing to do it if it's not compulsory. Anyway, you're a big boss now. Just treat it as a sweet trouble, Ning Shu said. Wan just smiled and shook her head. Standing outside the wall, I thought it was better inside the wall. Now I think it's better outside the wall. The wall has a big restriction. Small shrimp and small fish can't make any waves. Only big guys can make waves. It's normal. Ning Shu changed the topic. How much have you picked up? Not much. I didn't expect the bit wall to be so heavy. Wan shook her head. Ning Shu asked, "Last time you said there was a world of nothingness that could strengthen the soul. What kind of world is there? What can strengthen the soul?" Her soul was weak now. Although she didn't die, she was always like a ghost, appearing and disappearing as if she was going to disappear. Wan glanced at Ning Shu's soul. There are fruits and treasures in the world of nothingness that can strengthen the soul. But these things are hard to find. After all, some worlds of nothingness don't even have living creatures. It's impossible to give birth to things related to the soul. You have to ask the elders. Also, you should strengthen the toughness of your soul. No matter how high the sand pile is, it won't be able to stand after being washed by water. But if you mix water with some withered grass, the molding effect will be better and tougher. Wan smiled. It seems that your soul often gets into trouble. Ning Shu nodded. Thank you. There are some things that I'm ignorant about. Wan said, "It'll get better after a while. I'm telling you this to return the favor. I heard that the fire pearl at the auction house was sold at a high price of 30 million. I took advantage of it." Ning Shu just said, "The price was inflated. It can't be sold at that price now. It was just a coincidence." "Alright, when are we free? Let's go to the world of nothingness to look for treasures?" Ning Shu wanted to get Wan to join him. It was more interesting to have a familiar pretty sister join him than to team up with a stranger. It seemed that he wouldn't die now, no matter what kind of dangerous situation he encountered. But the problem was that he had no money. He had to get someone to join him. We'll see. Wan didn't reject him immediately. Ning Shu processed the star stones while thinking about what world to buy from the elders. The star stones were quickly processed. Now he had to melt the star stones. Chapter 31:22 After the star stone melted, the plane had to be connected as quickly as possible. When one was done, the main system would send the space node of the damaged plane and rush to the next one. Ning Shu had been dealing with it for a long time. Although the damage was small now, she still felt tired. She told the main system that she needed someone to take over. She had done enough. But the main system asked her to continue. It couldn't find a successor for the time being. Ning Shu rolled her eyes. She felt that the star stone was a trap. She couldn't find a successor. The main system couldn't wait for her to keep doing it. Everyone kept a respectful distance from this job. Ning Shu also felt that it was boring. She couldn't get the star stone. She couldn't be greedy at all. Who knew if the star stone would be less? If it was less, she had to adjust the inventory. It was so troublesome. There were still people competing for the scraps. The most painful thing in life was that you couldn't get what you wanted. Only when you lost it would you know how to cherish it. There was no successor. With so many people waiting, she couldn't just wait without doing anything. There were still many broken places waiting to be dealt with. Ning Shu could only keep doing it. Wan had collected 100,000 fragments and left. She was still dealing with the star stone. Could someone take over? She had to do missions to get soul power. She had to go to the void world to find treasures that could strengthen the soul. Why wasn't senior uncle here to take over? Next time, she wouldn't deal with this. She would just pick up the fragments. Ning Shu shook her arms. It was tiring to keep repeating the action. Although the star stone's damage to the soul was reduced, it was still harmful after a long time. Ning Shu sat down and rested. She stretched out a vine the size of a thumb and wrapped it around the item. Another vine wrapped around the star stone. It was too tiring to deal with it by hand. She tried to control the vines. Her spiritual power was a little stronger now, but it hadn't taken shape yet. The formation of spiritual power determined the height of future development. Of course, the larger the capacity, the better. Ning Shu slowly used the vines to deal with the star stone, but the result wasn't so pleasant. The vines would be reflected by the star stone's power and bounce back onto Ning Shu's body. It actually hurt a little. The mark between her thumb and forefinger was very painful. This was a damage imprint. It seemed that it was impossible to use the vines and external forces. If possible, the great uncles and he would not have personally gone to deal with it. If the vines could pick up the fragments, why couldn't they handle the star rocks? As Ning Shu processed the star stones, he also used the vines to process them. However, the vines were always repelled by the power of the star stones. Since it was the power of laws that picked up the fragments, and it was also the power of laws that handled the star stones, then it was also possible to attach the power of laws to the vines. Ning Shu touched the space between his eyebrows, but the power there didn't seem to be life anymore. It didn't produce the liquid of life anymore. It was difficult to draw this power to the vines. As Ning Shu pondered, he increased the speed at which he processed the star stones. Because he was almost done picking up the fragments, he was just waiting for her. Why hadn't they changed shifts yet? Why did they have to catch someone and tire him to death before stopping? Do you know what sustainable development is? In the world of the plane connection, Ning Shu immediately took the leftovers of the star stone, pushing away the other competitors. Competitors? Ning Shu ignored their gazes. The law of nothingness in the peerless martial arts was getting bigger and required more star stones. The big shots around him changed wave after wave, but there was still no one to take over. Ning Shu felt that regardless of whether it was picking up fragments or processing the star stones, he was the type that had a hard time. He was the type that was squeezed dry. If she really couldn't do it, she would just leave the organization and jump ship. Even if she didn't do anything, she would just squat in the void, day after day, night after night. She could live forever. If nothing went wrong, she would live longer than the sea of law. Now, she was not afraid of death at all. The organization gave her eternal life, but the prerequisite was that she had to be alive, and it was not easy to live in the organization. Since she was not afraid of death, she would not endure it and make herself unhappy. If she was still careful, afraid that she would say something wrong and cause others to be unhappy, then what was the point of her being strong? What was the point of being strong? If she was not going to die, was she going to be bullied forever? Thinking about it carefully, in the few hundred years in the organization, she was always on tenterhooks. If she was reincarnated, she should have reincarnated many times before finally disappearing. When she really did not want to live anymore, she could also annihilate her own personality and will. Death was not such a scary thing. Ning Shu informed the main system, "Hurry up and find someone to take over the shift, or else I won't do it anymore. I have already done it for so long, I should let people rest a little. If they dry vomit, I won't want to do it anymore. If you don't say it, people will think that you are not tired and let you work harder." Hoping for others to take pity on you, it was basically a dream. If you don't say it and then you cry out in grievance, people will only spit on your face. If you have something to say, then say it. Now that you are tired, you don't want to do it anymore. After a while, Ning Shu dealt with a few more damaged areas, and the people who took over the shift finally came. It was Uncle Feng and an he. Ning Shu put down the tool in her hand and stepped aside. Thinking about it, she had almost dealt with 50 areas. In her impression, she had been dealing with this thing non-stop. If she had a body, she should have cervical spondylosis by now. Uncle Feng smiled and said to Ning Shu, "Your face has recovered very well." Ning Shu touched her face. Her eldest uncle's words reminded her of the incident where her head had exploded. "Yes. Fortunately, it is as beautiful as before," Ning Shu said with a smile. "Your soul is so weak. Do you want soul power?" Uncle Ning Shu asked. Ning Shu glanced at him. "If you have something to say, just say it. I really don't like to deal with this kind of non-technical and repetitive work. In exchange, how about I help you get some soul power?" Uncle Ning Shu said. Ning Shu knew that these big shots had resources in their hands. They could get soul power that was not available on the market. Ning Shu said indifferently, "Then how do you want to trade?" Uncle Feng asked, "Then how do you want to trade? Is the soul power pure?" Ning Shu asked. If he did not trade with some impure soul power, he might as well do missions. Uncle Feng said, "Of course it is pure." Ning Shu said, "Oh." His expression did not change at all. He did not show any interest in the thing. "Oh." She didn't say anything else, making it difficult for Uncle Zhang to continue the conversation. "Do you want to trade?" "I want to see the soul power." He had to check the goods first. And he said from the side, "If the main system finds out that you are selling soul power, you will be in trouble." Uncle Feng said, "If you don't say it, I don't say it, and she doesn't say it, who else will know? Although we are not allowed to trade openly, the amount is small and private. It doesn't matter." Uncle Feng took out 2 bottles of soul power. They were not big, only the size of yogurt. Chapter 31-23. Inside the condoms was a water-like soul power, and it swayed like water in the condoms. Ning Shu almost couldn't stop himself from swallowing, but his expression was still noble and cold. He wasn't tempted by the soul power at all. 2 condoms. How about you take my shift? Uncle Chang shook the condoms, his voice full of temptation. These 2 condoms can make your soul power much more condensed. Ning Shu said indifferently, "How many people are willing to provide soul power for this?" There had to be a standard to measure whether it was worth it or not. "And about 10 condoms. Anyway, it will only be more and not less," Uncle Chang said. But Ning Shu nodded furiously in his heart, but on the surface, he nodded coldly and said, 3 condoms. Uncle Chang shook his head. "This soul power can't be bought even if you buy it." Ning Shu said, "Then find someone else to take your shift." "Girl, I only have 2 condoms. 2 condoms, Uncle Chang said. Ning Shu's expression was reluctant. "Okay, 2 condoms it is." He took the condoms. "I'll take your shift." Uncle Chang smiled and said, "Then do your best. Good luck." After saying that, he left. Ning Shu immediately opened the condoms and took a sip of the soul power. He immediately felt a cool sensation in his throat, and there was power in it. Ning Shu immediately felt his soul brimming with power. He took small sips. It was like drinking water, tasteless. In the end, he finished the 2 condoms. His soul became a bit stronger, and his soul became clearer. Very good. Ning Shu squatted down to process the star rock. And he moved to the side and also processed the star rock. And he was probably a bit poor. He didn't take out anything to exchange with Ning Shu. Instead, he chose to process the star rock. It seemed that everyone wasn't just poor. Ning Shu was still trying to use the vines to process the star rock. Even if the vines couldn't process the star rock, they could still move the fragments in front of him. He only needed to scrape the star rock. Then the vines would throw the fragments to the side, and a new one would be placed in front of him. It was better than moving the star stones himself. It was much easier. Not only did he have to deal with these star stones, but he also had to deal with the star stones on the bit wall. If he didn't clean up the bit wall, it wouldn't be easy to stick them together. The two of them silently processed the star stones. Ning Shu was fully immersed in how to use the vines to process the star stones. On the other hand, Enhe's expression was indifferent. His military uniform made him look cold and hard, completely different from his usual flowery shirt. The other party kept her at arm's length, and Ning Shu would not go up to him to talk. The two of them dealt with the star stones very quickly. After they were done with the star stones, they still hadn't finished picking up the fragments in the area. Ning Shu stretched out his vines and picked up the fragments around him and threw them into the bag. One fragment was worth 1 merit point. Picking up one fragment would earn her 1 merit point. Someone would definitely buy it from her. And he glanced at the lively Ning Shu, who was still in the mood to pick up the fragments after dealing with the star stones. Then he asked the warehouse to send some star stones over. There weren't enough star stones this time. After a while, a soldier came to deliver the star stones. Ning Shu saw Mo Ming and immediately greeted him. Here to deliver the star stones. How have you been recently? Mo Ming put down the bag and said, Not bad. Pretty good. The life of a soldier was actually very simple. Mo Ming told Ning Shu that he was doing very well. Ning Shu saw that the badge on his chest had changed again. There was an additional bar. You've been promoted again. Congratulations, congratulations. Since he was promoted, his salary would definitely be higher. These soldiers all had a basic salary. Mission takers would only have soul power when they completed missions. Mo Ming smiled and said, I'm just lucky. Mo Ming had a soaring purple fate. He was the kind of person who was very lucky. Ning Shu wasn't surprised that he had been promoted. Not only did he have soaring purple fate, but he also had the golden light of merit. When mixed together, it could almost blind Ning Shu's eyes. These soldiers would build golden bodies of merit. Just like skeletons, the merit would make their souls more resilient and protect them from other injuries. Ning Shu felt that the creation of the golden body of merit was the same as working hard on the immortal body, creating an immortal body with extremely strong defensive capabilities. The amount of merit points needed would be huge. Mission takers couldn't build golden bodies of merit. After all, an ordinary person's body couldn't carry so much merit points. Mo Ming put down the bag and left with a few soldiers. Ning Shu said to Enhe, Now let's melt the star stones. Enhe nodded. Then let's melt them. The two of them worked together to melt the star stones. Then they connected the planes. Enhe watched the melting process. Ning Shu ran to pick up the leftovers of the star stones. Just like that, they dealt with the star stones. During this time, Ning Shu and Enhe didn't say a word. They stayed silent and did their own things. They worked together for the next step. Because she had obtained 2 large amounts of soul power, Ning Shu hummed a little tune while melting the star stones. This soul power was equivalent to her completing 20 missions. She hoped that the next time someone asked her to take over, she would give them all the soul power. And he glanced at Ning Shu, who was humming. Can you be quieter? Oh, Ning Shu replied. She lowered her voice and hummed softly. And Ning Shu said, Don't tell me you're tired of doing it. So you're here to find someone to vent your anger on? And Ning Shu said, Do you have soul power? If you do, I can take over for you. And Ning Shu looked at her sympathetically. Now I believe Tanlang's words. You're really poor. And he grinned. You're the same. You're not a nouveau riche. Ning Shu said, I like it when you call me a nouveau riche. Wasn't it just some stinky money? What a nice compliment. But now, she didn't even have that stinky money. And even if I had soul power, I wouldn't trade with you. Wouldn't it be better to give her soul power to her soldiers? Ning Shu said calmly, "Don't worry. I didn't say that I had to force you to take over for me." Ning Shu spoke as he processed the star stones. Seeing that He's processing speed had slowed down, he didn't say anything. She had processed so many star stones before, and she had to take over for her uncle. She was also very tired. Now, she just hoped that someone would take over for her. Then this transaction would be considered complete. Rumble, rumble. Suddenly, the planes began to explode one after another. There was no warning at all, and the living beings inside did not move. Because it happened so suddenly, no one expected it. Including the planes that the army was dragging, they exploded one by one. The huge force annihilated the army near the planes. They were extinguished together with the creatures in the planes. Just like dominoes, if one were to fall, the other behind would all fall apart. The firecrackers were lit. Only when all of them exploded would they stop. Chapter 31:24. What's going on? And his face was gloomy. The big shots who were picking up the fragments also gathered. They were clearly controlling it well. Why did it suddenly explode? Who knew what was going on with these planes? Nothing might have happened before, and there were no cracks, but they suddenly exploded. Now it was obvious that the planes were collapsing, and if they couldn't be controlled, it would be like setting off firecrackers. All the planes might be in trouble. After all, the planes were connected. In an instant, the world and the creatures in the world were annihilated. Now I have to cut off this collapse. If the firecrackers were torn apart, the firecrackers behind them wouldn't explode. And he condensed a sword in his hand and rushed directly to the place where the planes had exploded. He wanted to cut off the connection between the planes. However, the power of the planes' collapse was very strong. It was like a storm. Ordinary people would be directly annihilated by this power. And his military uniform fluttered in the wind. The military cap on his head was also blown away. He held the sword and slashed at the plane. The collapse was right in front of him. Besides there were a few big shots helping. Some of the weaker ones couldn't withstand the power generated by the plane's collapse. It was so dangerous to pick up fragments and deal with star stones. Ning Shu condensed a sword in his hand. He walked over and slashed at the connection between the planes. The sword condensed the will of death. When it slashed at the plane, it made the plane creak. Soon the explosion was coming. Ning Shu condensed the sword in his hand and slashed at the plane. The plane hadn't fallen off yet. He felt so fucked up. He hoped that the plane would be fine, but in the end, it was very easy for the plane to fall off. Now, he tried his best to make the plane fall off, but he couldn't get it off. The explosion was right in front of him. Ning Shu felt that his soul was penetrated by gusts of astral wind. He didn't die after all. The few big shots couldn't withstand the astral wind generated by such an explosion. They said to "Let's retreat. Quickly inform the grand uncle to come back." And he felt that he was fucked up. The consequences were serious. The resources in his hands would definitely be deducted. Moreover, the grand uncle might not be able to come back immediately. And he didn't say anything. He condensed an even bigger weapon and slashed at the plane. Everyone else left. Ning Shu felt that it was really not easy to fill in for them. Ning Shu held the sword like an ant holding a toothpick. It was impossible for her to break open a big coconut. She had no idea how she could do it. Crack! The giant sword looked at the plane, and cracks appeared on the star stone in the middle. Ding ding ding. Ning Shu swung his sword in a circle and slashed at the plane as if he was forging iron. In addition, he was not weak. The plane finally fell off. And he kicked the plane, pushing it further away to prevent the surrounding planes from being affected by the explosion. Boom! The plane that had fallen off exploded. Waves of astral winds blew over and exploded in the void. It was as if the scene had been slowed down. It was like an atomic bomb exploding. It was as beautiful as fireworks. But these plane fragments rained down like a rain of bullets. Ning Shu quickly hid behind He and used He's body as a shield. "Oh my God, you scared me to death. Don't hurt my beautiful face." These fragments brushed past her face, leaving no trace. And he didn't say anything. She waited for the astral winds to gradually disappear before letting people pick up the fragments. "Why are you hiding?" "It's over," He said. Ning Shu patted her chest. "That was too scary. I almost got hit in the face by the fragments." He's expression was a bit indescribable. Ning Shu said, "I like my face, just like how you like to wax your hair." He glanced at her. "Can you be more serious during work hours? I didn't do anything to you. How am I not serious?" Ning Shu felt that it was really strange. These people either accused her of being petty or indecent. She was a poor little white rabbit. She had one label after another on her head. That was a capital injustice. If you don't like her, then so be it. I don't care what you think of me. There were many people who didn't like her. Come and kill me. Ning Shu stretched out her vines to pick up the fragments. There were so many broken fragments. She was going to make money. He rubbed between her eyebrows and began to let people count the broken planes. Generally, if there was a large-scale break in his jurisdiction, it was because he didn't control it well. That was his responsibility. If he didn't take measures, he didn't know how many more would break. He probably wouldn't have the resources next time. He glanced at Ning Shu, who was stretching out her vines to pick up the fragments while touching her face. She could actually withstand the astral winds and didn't die. She cooperated with her to cut open the plane. "Little girl, give me 5 bags of fragments," a big boss Ning Shu said. Ning Shu immediately handed him 5 bags of fragments. Merit grains. The other party gave her a bag of merit grains. Ning Shu took it and said with a smile, "Thank you for taking care of business." She looked like a money grubber. It was necessary to continue investigating this person. Ning Shu turned to look at He. Why did he keep looking at her? "What are you looking at? Do you also think that I'm beautiful?" He looked away. Ning Shu hurriedly collected the extra star stone fragments. These planes were already broken, but there were a lot of extra star stones. He was rich. Ning Shu used her vines to wrap around the fragment that was embedded with the star stone, and then put it in her own space. It was not in vain that his hand was split open by the rebounding force of the plane. He held a huge sword and cut the plane. His soul still hadn't digested the huge force. Ning Shu used her vine tentacles to pull the star stone fragments in front of her and put them away. This would last her for a long time. He didn't say anything. It was just a few star stones. Compared to his resources, this was not even a drop in the ocean. He gave her some benefits as a thank you for helping this time. Ning Shu hummed a little tune and put away the star stones. He said to He, "What do we do next?" He said, "Let's take care of things here first." Ning Shu nodded and continued to pull the star stones. There were so many star stones. After taking care of things here, they rushed to the next place. He glanced at Ning Shu and asked, "With the strength of your soul, you shouldn't be able to resist the astral wind, right?" After getting so many star stones and soul power, Ning Shu was in a good mood. He said, "Maybe I'm talented." He didn't take Ning Shu's boasting to heart. She continued to deal with the star stones. Ning Shu asked, "So many planes collapsed. Are you going to be unlucky?" She was in a bad mood. Could he not mention it? Ning Shu said, "The collapse was very sudden. The creatures in those planes didn't move. Will you be unlucky?" Chapter 31:25. He's ears were filled with the words, "You'll be unlucky." He was too lazy to argue with her. He stayed away from Ning Shu to deal with the star stone. "Hey, Grand Uncle is back. You can finally change shifts." Ning Shu immediately threw away the item in his hand. When Grand Uncle came over, he said, "Judge, let me tell you. After you left, thousands of planes collapsed. Revenge breeds revenge. When will you report me?" "I'll report you." He looked up at Ning Shu and twitched the corner of his mouth. "What the fuck? Thousands?" Senior Grand Elder glanced at He indifferently and then looked at Ning Shu, sizing her up. Privately trading soul power? Ning Shu looked down at his soul. It was much better than before. He shook his head calmly and said, "There was no trade. Someone gave it to me. Giving a gift doesn't count as a trade." And he wanted to speak, but Ning Shu glanced at him. And he snorted but didn't speak. 100 times as punishment, Grand Uncle said lightly. Ning Shu didn't care. It was just 100 times. It was so easy. He was too lazy to argue with him. Even if he argued, he wouldn't be able to find any reason. He had dealt with more than 100 times, including the ones he had taken over for Uncle Chong. And he snorted. "If you didn't go to Grand Uncle and say bad things about me, he wouldn't have noticed that your soul was strange. You lifted a stone only to drop it on your own foot." Ning Shu looked at He in surprise and stared. "I find that you really don't know how to be kind. I'm helping you." First, try to exaggerate the situation. When he saw the data, it was a good situation if there were less than 1,000. And should I thank you? Ning Shu waved his hand and hid his merit. "No need. We meet often. Saying thank you is too estranged. You don't have to be so polite. You're too polite. And you're so happy just because of this?" And he was too lazy to talk nonsense with her. Only villains and women were difficult to deal with. Indeed, it was like this. Even if there was no reason, he could still make it seem reasonable. Only a strong, iron-willed straight man like he could do this. If it were an ordinary man, he would have been in despair. Ning Shu stretched. "I'm leaving. I'm too tired. Goodbye." "Oh, right?" Ning Shu looked at Senior Uncle. "You went to see Jingqing, right? I asked you to send a bouquet of flowers. Did you send it? How much is it? I'll transfer the money to you." "Oh, my account is frozen. I can't use it. 1 merit grain will do. 1,000 merit grains can buy a lot of flowers. Keep the change," Ning Shu said to the Grand Elder. Ning Shu took out a merit grain from the little sunny egg and handed it to the Grand Uncle. He then asked, "Jingqing, did you miss me?" And he was speechless. She looked very happy with her mischievous actions. The Grand Elder looked at the merit grain in Ning Shu's hand. The merit grain was brighter than gold. It was especially shiny and looked very rich. The Grand Elder put on a pair of gloves and took the merit grain from Ning Shu's hand. He didn't touch Ning Shu's soul at all. He was just short of raising his orchid finger. Ning Shu asked expectantly, "Did Jingqing mention me?" The Grand Elder said, "Who told me you went to see Jingqing? I thought you guys would be playing in the pool of the law of nothingness. You really didn't go to see Jingqing. When are you going to see him? When will you bring a bouquet of flowers?" Ning Shu patted his butt and left. The Grand Elder casually threw a merit grain to He. "Your strength should be improved. So many planes have collapsed this time." And he directly melted the merit grain. The merit grain entered his palm and integrated into his soul. "I didn't collapse 1,000 planes. Not even 1/10 of 1,000. Grand Elder, the situation of the planes is getting worse and worse. These planes suddenly exploded without any warning. This kind of situation couldn't be prevented. This wasn't a problem of his strength, but that the planes had gone crazy without any warning. Of course, this was because the planes were sick. To be precise, something had happened to the Source Law C. The Grand Elder didn't speak. His expression was indifferent as he began to process the star stones. Ning Shu returned to the system space through the space channel. He clicked on the chat system and contacted the Grand Elder to ask how much soul power he had. If the Grand Elder had soul power, he wanted to make a deal with him. The Grand Elder said that he didn't have any. It wasn't easy to get some soul power. Although it was euphemistic, Ning Shu understood that the Grand Elder had rejected the deal. Ning Shu didn't care. Anyway, he had already obtained a part of the soul power. He could slowly complete missions with the rest of the soul power. Ning Shu patted his purse. In the purse were the merit grains he had earned this time. He would take them to the skeletons to eat. After cultivating the skeletons, he could be lazy and didn't have to do everything. Ning Shu entered the second reincarnation world. A small pit had formed. It was the size of 2 palms and there was less than a handful of water inside. The rebirth pool was slowly evolving. It seemed that the reincarnation world also needed soul power. He just didn't know if the rebirth pool in the first reincarnation world could provide this energy. Ning Shu looked at the rebirth pool quietly. He wasn't in a hurry to let the rebirth pool form quickly. After all, no soul would enter this world. It was better to evolve slowly. She could evolve however she wanted. She could evolve as long as she wanted. She had plenty of time to wait. Ning Shu went to the place where the skeletons were stationed. He found that each skeleton had more or less golden merit light. The difference was that some skeletons had darker colors, while others had lighter colors. Ning Shu walked over. When Zhu Jun saw Ning Shu, he waved his hand. "Boss, over here." At the same time, a group of people walked over and surrounded Ning Shu. They surveyed Ning Shu with all sorts of strange gazes. For some skeletons, this was the first time they were seeing Ning Shu. Most probably, they had heard many people talking about Ning Shu. At this moment, all the skeletons surveyed Ning Shu from top to bottom. Ning Shu took out the little sunny pouch. "There are merit grains inside. I think you guys have done a good job. Pay more attention to the rebirth pool in case something runs out. You still don't know." "Yes." The skeletons replied in unison. They stared at the pouch in Zhu Jun's hand. Zhu Jun asked, "Why is it mandarin ducks playing in the water?" Zhu Jun looked at the embroidery on the pouch and asked. After that, he exclaimed in surprise and used a strange gaze to stare at Ning Shu. Ning Shu was speechless. This was what it was when it was sold. Who cared about what was embroidered on it? Moreover, Ning Shu felt that the person who made this item had a bad taste. It was the same as his eldest uncle. Zhu Jun whispered to Ning Shu, "Pippi Shu, when are you going to the world? Bring me along. I heard that the Nine Palace Mountain is a world." Ning Shu glanced at him. "Who told you that? Who told you that the Nine Palace Mountain is a world? There are clearly 9 worlds." Zhu Jun was speechless. He couldn't reply to this. Chapter 31:26. I asked Li Si about it. "Isn't Li Si a native?" Zhu Jun asked in anticipation. "When are you going to Nine Palace Mountain?" Ning Shu said, "Aren't you in Nine Palace Mountain now? This is the first level of Nine Palace Mountain." She would not go to Nine Palace Mountain for no reason. Nine Palace Mountain also had a plain wall. If she entered it frequently, it might cause great harm to the world. Ning Shu did not want Nine Palace Mountain to explode in the world of reincarnation. The huge explosion would definitely tear the world of reincarnation apart. In the future, she would not even have a place to rest. Zhu Jun said, "I want to go to the human world." Ning Shu nodded. Speaking of which, he had already gone to the 5th level of Nine Palace Mountain. He did not know what the 6th level was like. He would not go in for the time being. Nine Palace Mountain was here anyway. He would fill up his soul first. "When I go to the human world, I will think of you first." Ning Shu reached out and patted Zhu Jun's shoulder. It was quite hard and glowed with golden light. What a handsome skeleton. Zhu Jun did not believe Pippi Shu's words at all. Not at all. Ning Shu thought of the earthworm. He asked Li Si for the Book of Life and Death to check it out. He did not know if the Book of Life and Death had souls that entered the world of reincarnation. What a good-for-nothing. Why didn't he run when he could not beat him? Did he think he was like Yi Lin who could not be killed? What a dream. Could it be that the earthworm was too fat so he could not drill into the ground? If that was the case, then he deserved it. Why did he have to eat so much? Perhaps the earthworm did not change his diet at all. Since Yi Lin had started to make soul fluid, it did not make sense that the earthworm would not eat soul fluid. Moreover, after consuming the soul fluid, the venom extracted from the earthworms was a great killing weapon. A single bite could contaminate one's body and soul, turning one into a mentally retarded existence. The earthworm was quite afraid of death. To be honest, Ning Shu did not believe that the earthworm would die just like that. Perhaps she was hiding in the ground. Yi Lin said she was dead. Thinking about Liren all day long, Earthworm hadn't even seen Liren yet, so how could he bear to die? Ning Shu quickly flipped through the Book of Life and Death and asked Li Si, "Does the Book of Life and Death record all the souls in the world of samsara?" I didn't investigate this, but it should be recorded. When souls jump into the lake of life, I ask for their names and then look for their names in the book of life and death. Anyway, I can find them. Perhaps there are some wandering souls without consciousness that are not recorded in the records. After all, wandering souls didn't even know who they were. They didn't have any thoughts or memories. They were just thin souls floating around. How could the book of life and death record them? Ning Shu flipped through the book of life and death. He didn't know what was added to the earthworm. It seemed to be a soul worm. Ning Shu pulled out the soul of the soul stone. There weren't many of them. Even though there were images, Ning Shu could tell at a glance that these soul worms weren't earthworms. Did the earthworm not die, or did it reincarnate? Ning Shu asked Li Si if he saw any earthworm-like worms jumping into the lake of life. Earthworms were mutated soul worms. Soul worms were used to find soul stone mines. They were used by humans to find soul stone mines. Earthworms were intelligent. Intelligent creatures were first recorded in the book of life and death. If there was no record in the book of life and death, it meant that the earthworm wasn't dead. Then why did Yi Lin say that the earthworm was dead? She summoned the earthworm at that time, but it didn't respond. Could it be that it was too far away, so the earthworm didn't hear it? Ning Shu didn't want to go to the second world. His disciples seemed to have turned evil. He changed from a soul protector to a person who made soul fluid. If the heavens wanted people to die, they first had to make people crazy. If Yi Lin wasn't discovered, then it would be fine. If he was discovered, then those righteous sects would definitely exterminate him. Moreover, his disciples were all lucky. If a person wanted to be famous, it was nothing more than eliminating evil and defending the righteous path. Either he was a great demon king and everyone was afraid of him, or he rebelled against his sect, especially when his master was a great demon. What a dramatic situation. Ning Shu had a feeling that the heavenly Tao of that world had given up on Yi Lin. If Yi Lin was fine, he would become an existence that was admired. After all, his disciples were all people with luck. It was enough to make this sect famous. And as the master of these people, Yi Lin would also become an existence that was admired. Even if he wasn't strong enough, he would be praised as a great disciple. Moreover, Yi Lin's strength wasn't bad. But if he wasn't a righteous person and was a thief, it was enough to make these disciples rebel against the sect. It seemed like it was because of Bai Cc that Yi Lin took such a risk. Bai Cc said that she had implicated Yi Lin. Bai Cc probably wouldn't let him off. Everyone was the same. A crow shouldn't call a pig black. Falling into the devil's path for love sounded very interesting. Bai Cc probably wouldn't think that she had implicated Yi Lin. Anyway, Yi Lin's good days were coming to an end. Maybe he would be killed and come to the world of samsara. At that time, they could still talk about the old days. She should ask Yi Lin where the earthworm had gone. Compared with Yi Lin, this cheap disciple, who was a bit fake, she valued the chubby earthworm more. It was more comfortable to quarrel with the earthworm every day than to get along with Yi Lin. Ning Shu flipped through the life and death book. Finally, her eyes stopped at Yi Lin's name. She was still talking about the old days with Yi Lin. She didn't expect to see Yi Lin's name. Moreover, the life and death book recorded Yi Lin's death in detail. He might have recorded more things than ordinary people because he used to be the son of the natural law. Similar to what Ning Shu thought, Yi Lin was really besieged and killed by the famous decent sections. At the critical moment, it was his disciples who stabbed him in the back. After killing their own master, the sect was disbanded. The disciples also went away. When strength was respected, a master who taught them was more important than their parents, because the master's teaching could make them stronger and change their fate. Killing a master was a despicable thing. These disciples killed their own masters. Ordinary decent sects couldn't tolerate them. Ning Shu pointed at Yi Lin's name and then looked for Bai Cic's name. If Bai Cici also died, they could really be a pair of dead mandarin ducks on the road to the netherworld, a ghost couple. But Ning Shu didn't find Bai Cic's name after searching for a while. This meant that Bai Cici either didn't die, or her soul was held and couldn't come to the world of samsara. This was a bit sad. They couldn't be together when they were alive, and they couldn't be together when they died. Sometimes the natural law was so cruel. Ning Shu said to Li Si, "Call Zhu Jun here. I have work to do." Li Si stood up and went to find Zhu Jun. After a while, Zhu Jun came. Ning Shu pointed at Yi Lin's appearance in the Life and Death book and said, "This person is in the world of samsara. Bring him here. Don't kill him. I have something to ask him." Chapter 31:27. Ning Shu used vines to make a stool and sat down to wait. Zhu Jun's black eyes stared at Yi Lin's appearance on the Book of Life and Death. Without eyes, Ning Shu didn't know what he was using to see. Zhu Jun asked, "Can I take this book away and show it to everyone?" Li Si reflexively stopped him. "There are so many skeletons. What if they break it?" Li Si had developed feelings for the Book of Life and Death. He was worried that these careless skeletons would break the Book of Life and Death. Ning Shu handed the Book of Life and Death to Zhu Jun. "It's not that fragile. If it was so easy to break, it wouldn't be a natural treasure nurtured by the heavenly Tao." Zhu Jun took the Book of Life and Death and said to Li Si, "Don't worry. I promise to bring it back safely." Li Si looked at the Book of Life and Death in Zhu Jun's hands as if Zhu Jun was holding a fragile baby. He reminded him again and again, "You have to be careful. Don't let anyone tear it." Zhu Jun turned and left. Ning Shu supported his chin and looked at the pool of rebirth. He looked at the various mirages created by the pool of rebirth. When Ning Shu stared at them, Ning Shu's relatives appeared. They were trying to tempt Ning Shu to jump in. Ning Shu sighed. If she jumped in, the pool of rebirth would be the first to collapse. The pool of rebirth would definitely die before her. These things couldn't tempt her. She would go back and comprehend the spatial laws later. While picking up the fragments and processing the star stones, she would look for the plane where she was born. It wasn't easy to find a person in a sea of people, let alone in so many planes. Ning Shu didn't dare to calculate the probability of finding her. Since the pool of rebirth was willing to make these illusions for her, she would look at them. It was good to see the faces of her relatives. After a long time, the faces, voices, and smiles of these people began to fade in her memory. She couldn't remember some of them. She only remembered who her relatives were. Zhu Jun led the 2,000 skeletons and started to look for people in the world of reincarnation. He divided these skeletons into several teams. Of course, there was a huge reward for finding the person. The pool of reincarnation probably felt that these things were unable to tempt Ning Shu, so it didn't bother to create a mirage, preventing Ning Shu from even looking at it. When he was bored, Ning Shu continued to expand his sea of consciousness. The more mental strength it contained, the greater the potential for mental strength to take shape. Ning Shu hoped that his spiritual sphere could form a vast and boundless starry sky. That way, when searching for people, his spiritual power could pour out and scan an entire plain. They didn't want to form rivers and lakes. After all, there was a limit to how much they could rise. Even if it was the sea, there would be a time when it ran out of water. It was a good thing that her spiritual power had yet to take shape. The longer she waited, the more she would be able to expand her sea of consciousness and accommodate more spiritual power. Since it was boring to wait for others, he might as well expand his sea of consciousness. Ning Shu turned the vines into a reclining chair. He lay on the chair and rocked back and forth. Ning Shu closed his eyes and was very relaxed. When he woke up, Yi Lin was still not found. The world of reincarnation was not small. It would be difficult to find him even if he wanted to hide. Ning Shu stretched and asked Li Si, "Have you found your young master?" The Life and Death book records very quickly. Souls with intelligence, regardless of whether they were humans or other creatures, were recorded. If there was no Pai Lupi soul, then young Master Pai Lupi was either a 1,000-year-old tortoise who hadn't come to the world of reincarnation yet, or his soul had already dispersed. The first was still okay. If Li Si didn't encounter a huge external force, he wouldn't die. He could continue to wait. As for the second, Li Si wouldn't be able to wait even if he waited until the end of time. Li Si also understood this. It's a good thing that there is no record. At least there was something to think about. Ning Shu stood up and put away the vines. Since Yi Lin couldn't be found in a short time, she would first comprehend the law of space. The deeper the comprehension, the more planes she could jump in the future. Ning Shu didn't want to find Yi Lin by herself. Anyway, there were skeletons. Let these skeletons find him. If they could find him, they would find him. If they couldn't find him, they would slowly find him. As long as there was something to do, it was fine. She thought it would take some time. She didn't expect that Yi Lin would be found so soon. When he had a body, Yi Lin emitted black gas. Now that he didn't have a body, his soul was shrouded in black gas. This was caused by the unclean soul power. Li Si was stunned. He really looked like his young master. His young master was also covered in black gas. When Yi Lin saw Ning Shu, he was stunned. Just like when he was alive, Ning Shu cupped his hands and shouted, "Senior, why are you in this world?" After he was stabbed in the back by that rascal, he lost consciousness in a trance. When he woke up again, he was in a foggy world. There was no day or night in this world. It was always gray like this. Souls floated around him. Yi Lin understood. He had come to the legendary hell. Hell really existed. When people died, they really came to hell. When he saw his former master here, Yi Lin was very surprised. He always knew that his master was in a soul state, and his soul was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. But he didn't expect him to be someone from hell. Zhu Jun said to Ning Shu, "I've brought him here. It won't be long, right?" Ning Shu nodded. "It won't be long." Ning Shu looked at Yi Lin and asked, "I'll ask you again. Where did the earthworm go? It didn't come to this world. Is it dead? Alive? Or was it made into soul fluid by you?" Yi Lin didn't say anything. Ning Shu sat down. He didn't say anything and wasn't angry. He waited silently while cultivating his sea of consciousness. There were many skeletons around. They stared at Yi Lin with their black eyes. Although they didn't have eyes, Yi Lin felt uncomfortable when these eyes stared at him. Also, the golden light on these skeletons made him feel uncomfortable. When he got closer, his soul felt like it was being pricked by needles. Yi Lin planned to familiarize himself with this world. Since it was a soul world, he could probably cultivate. After all, his former master was also a soul. However, he didn't expect to be caught without any warning or reason. When he saw Ning Shu, Yi Lin felt like he had met an old friend in a foreign land. But the other party asked about the earthworm. Humans were worse than a small worm. Moreover, they seemed to be master and disciple. Yi Lin couldn't bear the pressure and said, "It's still alive." Ning Shu said, "Oh, then why did you say it was dead?" Yi Lin said, "Later on, it didn't want to follow me and disappeared. I don't know where it went. If you ask me, I can only say it's dead." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and looked at him. "Yi Lin, you're really interesting. What's wrong with saying it's alive? Why did you have to say it's dead? The earthworm was probably living well in that world. Nothing else mattered." Chapter 31:28. She guessed that Yi Lin had some conflicts with the earthworm, so Yi Lin thought that the earthworm was dead. She felt that Yi Lin not only had a problem with her, but also with the earthworm. She didn't know what had happened. "Should I believe you? Can you be sure that you didn't refine the earthworm into soul fluid?" After all, the earthworm couldn't come to the world of samsara, and the book of life and death wouldn't record it. Yi Lin said, "No, it drilled into the ground and ran away." Ning Shu had seen the earthworm's ability to drill into the ground. He guessed that only the imprint of the law of earth could stop the earthworm. It was very talented in this aspect. Yi Lin suddenly knelt down, prostrated himself on the ground, and whimpered. It seemed that he had a lot of grievances during this period. Yi Lin was really wronged. Ning Shu was speechless. He didn't expect that Yi Lin would cry. He was probably crying by Cici because he couldn't save her even when he died. Or he was betrayed by his disciple, and that kind of resentment couldn't be dispelled. Just by listening to the crying, it seemed that Yi Lin had suffered a great grievance. The skeletons and Ning Shu present silently watched Yi Lin cry. The whimpering drifted around, making the souls who jumped into the reincarnation pool look over here. They didn't go to the reincarnation pool, but came to watch the fun. Li Si drove away these souls who came to watch the fun. Zhu Jun asked Ning Shu, when you went to the world, did you cheat a man's feelings and trample on his heart? Otherwise, he wouldn't be so wronged. Ning Shu laughed. He was a skeleton, but his imagination was still so wild. Why would I cheat a man's feelings? She was so free. Why did she have to find a man who didn't have long to live to flirt with? She would rather sleep than find a man out of boredom. Besides, wasn't it better to do tasks? She could pick up fragments to raise these skeletons. Then why is he crying? It seems that you did something to him. Zhu Jun pointed at Yi Lin, who was crying. It must be too painful to be separated by life and death from the person you love. That's why you couldn't help but cry. Ning Shu wasn't in the mood to listen to Yi Lin's sobs and was about to leave. Yi Lin raised his head and looked at Ning Shu. His lips moved as he said to Ning Shu, I'm sorry. Ning Shu shook his head. There's nothing wrong with you. Thinking about it carefully, they really didn't do anything wrong to each other. If it weren't for the earthworms, Ning Shu wouldn't have come to Yi Lin again. To put it in a cliché, their fate had come to an end. Ning Shu now had to get used to parting and death, because she would not die. In her long life, she would see many parting and death. Ning Shu didn't feel anything about Yi Lin's apology. Yi Lin shook his head and said, It's not like that. I hate your reputation as a demoness. After becoming your disciple, I don't dare to tell everyone that you're my master. I don't want to. Who wouldn't want to have a master who was of virtue and prestige? Who wouldn't want to have a master who was highly respected and upright? Not to mention, she wasn't a demoness who was elusive and elusive. At that time, because of the demoness reputation, he had been hunted down by people. Because of this master, he had suffered a lot. And when he was hunted down, this master didn't even appear. She was completely unreliable. She didn't give him anything to save his life. He more or less felt some resentment in his heart. It was normal. Ordinary people would resent their parents. Even if they were raised, they would still resent their parents for not doing a good job, or for not doing a good job. These conflicts could cause hatred and resentment. Ning Shu quietly listened to Yi Lin's words. She didn't refute him and just watched him vent. Ning Shu's behavior made Yi Lin feel very frustrated. It was just like this, just like this. It made people feel love and hate. He wanted to break away from this master. Although people outside would still tie them together, Yi Lin didn't want to. She always appeared and disappeared mysteriously. He didn't know when she would appear. When Bai Cc first brought up this matter, he went along with the flow. But she abandoned him without hesitation. It was clearly the result he wanted, but she didn't say anything and didn't urge him to stay. She just let it go. This made Yi Lin angry and empty in his heart. Sure enough, she didn't have a disciple in her heart. She just treated him like a dog and threw him away. Later, the demoness in red was gradually whitewashed. Yi Lin didn't feel anything. When her reputation was bad, she suffered. When her reputation was good, she didn't get any glory. Although in the eyes of outsiders, they were still master and disciple, Yi Lin knew that they had no relationship. Ning Shu just said, Let's not talk about these things. Yi Lin said, If you don't talk to me, it means that you don't like me. Ning Shu turned to look at him. That's right. Yi Lin choked. Black chi rose from his body. In the end, he grimaced and said, The earthworm is dead. I killed it. Ning Shu was speechless. He had never seen Yi Lin so emotionally exposed before. The high-spirited youth from before had disappeared. Now, he was just a soul emitting black chi. So, what was Yi Lin trying to do? Why was he so angry at her? Zhu Jun whispered, It seems that his love for you has turned to hate. Ning Shu's heart skipped a beat. He had fallen into the demonic path because of Bai Cc. His love for her had turned to hate? Instead of saying that his love for her had turned to hate, it was more likely that he hated himself. He found that his master was more powerful than he had imagined, but he didn't give him anything. Instead, he was implicated because of his master's reputation. It was probably, Master, you don't love me and don't care about me, so you don't give me anything. When he saw her in this world, his heart was probably in turmoil. Had she let down Yi Lin? Ning Shu left the world of samsara directly. No matter how angry Yi Lin was and how much he hated him, Ning Shu didn't care. It was so easy to deal with Yi Lin. He could just put him in the pool of reincarnation and erase his memory. But if Yi Lin didn't want to go to the pool of reincarnation and was willing to bear the heart-wrenching pain, why not help him? Ning Shu went to the space city to comprehend the law of space. Yi Lin saw Ning Shu leave without looking back. Again and again, it was just like when he had cancelled the master-disciple relationship. Just like that, he left without any reluctance. Yi Lin clenched his fists and punched the black sand, making holes in it. Zhu Jun walked up to him and said, "Although I don't know what your relationship with Pippi Shu is, what you did was just to show off in front of Pippi Shu so that you can continue your relationship and get benefits in the world of samsara." But Pippi Shu didn't see it. Zhu Jun shook his head, knowing that this soul regretted it. Acting as if he had been let down was just to get some benefits. Yi Lin lowered his head and didn't speak. His fists were half buried in the black sand. He didn't refute Zhu Jun's words, but said, "She has never been honest with me." "Never." Zhu Jun tilted his head and asked cutely, "What obligation does Pippi Shu have to be honest with you?" It was cruel, but it was also true. Just like when Ning Shu asked about Zheng Qing, those high-level officials had no obligation to be honest with her. Even if Zheng Qing killed you, so what? And Ning Shu didn't do anything to hurt Yi Lin directly. Chapter 31-29. Yi Lin didn't say a word. Black qi floated around him. Zhu Jun clicked his tongue and returned the Book of Life and Death to Li Si. He said to the skeleton, "Let's go back. There will be a reward." Yi Lin looked at Zhu Jun's back and said faintly, "You don't even know my relationship with her. What right do you have to judge?" Zhu Jun turned around and shrugged. "She's not your mother anyway." Zhu Jun said, "When talking about benefits, talk about benefits. Don't talk about feelings. When you have feelings for someone, you talk about benefits. Whatever you think, you're just putting yourself in a vulnerable position. You think you can get what you want by crying? Instead, you'll be looked down upon. What did she do to you to make you feel so wronged? Why are you so indignant?" He was clearly indignant. Yes, indignant. Yi Lin laughed bitterly. He was probably thinking, "If you're so powerful, why didn't you tell me that I abandoned a wife who tired me, who couldn't give me anything, and who might even be ugly?" In the end, this woman was a multimillionaire. When they were together, she didn't give him anything. He couldn't get rid of the feeling of being cheated. "If you told me, I wouldn't have let go so easily. When I was in trouble, she chose to stand by and watch. When I was at my wit's end and chose a path of no return, she still stood by and watched. She couldn't accept it. If that was the case, why did she take him as her disciple? She should have just not taken him as her disciple. She came and went like a ghost and was unreliable. First, she asked him for soul fluid. Then, she gave him tools, swords, and cultivation resources. Occasionally, when she came to find him, she would save him when he was in danger. He felt that she didn't want to save him. Instead, she was afraid that if he died, there would be no one to help her find soul fluid. It didn't seem like a master-disciple relationship. It was more like a transaction. Taking him as her disciple was just like what Bai Sisi said. She just wanted him to help her find resources. Why couldn't she complain? Why couldn't she feel wronged? Zhu Jun spread his hands. "I don't really understand your relationship. Maybe Pippi Shu didn't give you what you wanted, so you exploded. This isn't about giving me what I want or not," Yi Lin shouted. Zhu Jun was surprised. "If that's not the case, then what are you doing?" She wasn't trying to make a fuss or anything. It was just that she wasn't satisfied. If it wasn't for her unwillingness, everyone would have parted on good terms. She clearly didn't get what she wanted, yet she was talking about her feelings. How strange. Zhu Jun couldn't be bothered to waste time with people he didn't know. It would be more fun to go back and split the merit grains with everyone. Zhu Jun brought the skeletons away. These skeletons stepped on the black sand and disappeared in a flash. Yi Lin's entire body was emitting black gas. He stood there motionless like a statue. Li Si guarded the rebirth pool and flipped through the Book of Life and Death. After a long time, Yi Lin's soul moved. He asked Li Si, "Is it my fault?" Li Si looked up blankly. "What's wrong? What are you talking about?" "She's my master, but she never cared about me. My heart can't be at peace. Did I do something wrong?" Li Si said. "You probably didn't. It's just that your expectations of her were too high. She didn't reach the height you set for her, so you resented her." This was like an ordinary couple. They despised one party for not living up to expectations and being useless. In reality, they had set a goal and height in their hearts. If the other party couldn't achieve it, they would hate and hate her. How could she be so useless? They also felt that they had sacrificed so much, but the other party actually treated them like this. He guarded the rebirth pool day after day, looking for young master. He didn't want to get anything from young master. The choice was made by oneself, but others had to bear the losses of the choice you made. Since she was useless, it would have been better if she didn't marry this useless man. She had a boyfriend and thought about how well this boyfriend would treat her. If he couldn't do it, she had already given this person an X, 3 strikes out and out. Yi Lin's expression was a little blank. "I don't have high expectations of her. I really don't have high expectations." Li Si said. "I don't know how high your expectations of her are." Yi Lin looked at the rebirth pool and the various mirages. He wanted to jump in, but he wasn't willing to do so. After coming to this world, he had already asked around. If he jumped into the rebirth pool, he could start his life anew, but he would form a brand new self. If he didn't jump, his soul would be so muddy. He didn't know what would be born in the future. Yi Lin turned and left, a little dazed. Li Si didn't pay attention to him. He carefully flipped through the life and death book. He Ching came out from behind the stone and stopped Yi Lin. She asked, "Do you know her?" Yi Lin turned to look at her. When he saw that it was a woman, he ignored her. He was in a bad mood, and a strange woman ran over to stop him. He Ching asked Yi Lin, "Do you know that woman?" "The woman in black." Yi Lin was impatient. "What do you want? If you have something to say, say it. It's good that you know her. That woman not only manages this world, but also has other identities." She wanted to go, but because her soul wasn't qualified, she could only stay in this world. She also didn't want to go to reincarnation. Yi Lin's heart was already numb. When she came to this world, she said that she came for her soul and that she came from reincarnation. However, he didn't believe it at the time. Now, it seemed that the destruction of the city was just to let her soul enter this world. Moreover, she wanted to snatch the soul fluid when she encountered it. It seemed that it was more for the soul fluid. Yi Lin let out a long breath. "So, if you have a good relationship with her, you can ask her to take you to another path. However," He Ching looked down at his soul. "Have you also absorbed a soul? You might not pass like this." He Ching felt like she had been played like a fool. Previously, he said that her soul wasn't strong enough. She tried her best to find and absorb souls without intelligence. Finally, her soul reached the standard. Then he said that her soul's purity wasn't good enough. This person was also emitting black smoke, so his soul's purity definitely wasn't good enough. However, He Ching felt that there was still a way. As long as that woman was willing to work hard, she would definitely be able to solve it. However, the other party might not necessarily do it. This made her grit her teeth. Yi Lin was in a daze. Before, he thought that the person who let go was a billionaire. Now, this person's status had risen again. She had become the richest person in the country. No wonder she didn't care about him and didn't even look at him. This was something that she had admitted herself. Even if he went to look for her, she wouldn't care about him anymore. Even if she was a billionaire, she wouldn't let anything slip through her fingers. He Ching observed Yi Lin's expression and found that Yi Lin wasn't happy. Her heart thumped. Previously, she had been hiding behind a rock and saw them talking for a long time. /BK. Chapter 3130. Yi Lin understood that this woman had appeared for a different purpose, but she might be disappointed, because her master wouldn't do anything for her. Yi Lin didn't want to talk to her, so he left, but He Ching chased after him and kept talking to Yi Lin. He Ching didn't want to die, so this was the only path she could take. She had to get out of her current situation. Ning Shu was comprehending the laws of space in the space city when he was notified by the system that there was a special mission. Ning Shu stopped and returned to the system space. Ning Shu asked, "What kind of special mission is it?" The backup system said, "It's a message from the main system and you're one of its members. As for the mission content, it's to eliminate the existence that produces resentment and is unwilling to be counterattacked." Ning Shu said, "Oh, what kind of existence is that?" "Some people have been hurt, and whether they live or die, they stay in the plane and use their own power to take revenge. Usually, this kind of revenge is large-scale, and many people die. Now, we need to eliminate this existence." The backup system said. Ning Shu said, "One of its members also said that this is a team mission?" "Yes, there will be team members doing this mission together. Since it's revenge for those who have been hurt, then who should I enter the body of those who don't counterattack?" Ning Shu couldn't help but ask, "Should I just enter the body of a random passerby?" "The main system will project the location." "Oh," Ning Shu replied. "Is this mission mandatory?" "The main system selects suitable members, so it's mandatory," the main system said. Ning Shu had never done a mission like this before, so he asked, "Can I know the list of teammates in advance?" He wanted to see if there was anyone he knew, and he didn't know if there would be conflicts during the mission. The system gave him a list of about 6 people, but he didn't know any of their names. Okay, he didn't know any of them, so how was he going to do it? The system said, "This kind of mission has a precise goal, so there won't be any conflicts between the mission takers. As long as the existence of resentment is eliminated, the mission is considered complete. Because there are no takers, the reward will be given by the main system. Looks like I have to complete it." The system said, "Host, please go to that world as soon as possible and familiarize yourself with the environment." Ning Shu immediately exchanged for fasting pills and medicines, as well as some water. Some worlds did not have the ability to use laws. With water, fasting pills, and medicine, he could more or less save his life. Ning Shu asked, "What if we die on the way?" The system said, "After death, the mission taker will be sent back to the system space and will not be able to participate in the mission a second time. If you complete the mission, you will be rewarded, but if you fail, you will be punished." Ning Shu nodded to show that he understood. He had thought that there would be no punishment for this kind of mission, but it turned out that there was still a punishment. However, Ning Shu didn't really care about the punishment. He just had to work hard to complete the quest. After all, she had nothing to punish. Even her account had been frozen, and there were no taxes to be collected. Could it be that she was going to pick up the shards and handle the star stones for free? After preparing everything, Ning Shu told the system, "You can go to the world now." Not long after a slight jolt, Ning Shu merged into a body. He felt that something was licking his face. It was soft like a tongue. With a fishy smell, Ning Shu opened his eyes and saw a long, snake-like tongue. At the end of the tongue was a woman. The woman opened her mouth wide, and the tongue came out of her mouth. If it wasn't a dream, then it was a supernatural event. This female ghost was wearing plain clothes with 2 braids. Such a simple outfit, without any makeup, but she was very beautiful. Her facial features were indescribably beautiful. Perhaps these facial features alone were not good, but together, they were very beautiful. However, at this moment her face was pale, and her whole body was emitting a ghostly aura. The surrounding magnetic field was chaotic and cold. The yin qi rushed into the heart, liver, spleen, and lungs, like ice needles piercing the skin. This tongue was long, like a flexible snake, and wrapped around Ning Shu's neck. Ning Shu grabbed the tongue. Otherwise, the tongue would wrap around his neck, otherwise he would die. This beautiful female ghost looked at Ning Shu with eyes full of hatred, as if it was real resentment. Ning Shu suddenly said, "Amitabha, benefactor, the sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent and be saved." If there was no accident, this female ghost should be the target of their elimination. Without receiving the content, he didn't know what happened to this female ghost. Thus, the surrounding magnetic field was messed up, and the space nodes were probably chaotic. When the female ghost heard Ning Shu's words, She suddenly snorted. This snort was full of mockery. Ning Shu originally wanted to form a seal, but he found that the magnetic field here was really twisted and strange. Was he going to be strangled by the tongue? Seeing that this female ghost hated him so much, she must have a deep hatred when she was alive. Ning Shu said with difficulty, "When you're alive, I can deal with you, but when you're dead, I'm still not afraid of you." The female ghost's whole body exuded a ghost aura. She floated in front of Ning Shu, directly opened her mouth and bit Ning Shu's hand. She bit off one of Ning Shu's fingers. Ning Shu was in severe pain. She covered her wound. One of her fingers was broken. She had encountered such a situation. This female ghost chewed Ning Shu's finger. Kacha. It was as if the hand bone was being chewed by the female ghost. Her mouth was full of blood, and blood flowed down the corner of her mouth. Ning Shu covered his wound. One of his fingers was bitten. He was in so much pain that his whole body twitched. Blood flowed down the gap between his fingers. In front of her, eating her flesh and drinking her blood, there must be a deep hatred. Too exciting. Fortunately, he broke free from the control of the tongue. This female ghost was very powerful. His resentment should be very strong. He had never seen such strong resentment. Moreover, the female ghost was not in a hurry to kill him. It seemed that she wanted to play with him and let him be killed in extreme fear. Ning Shu covered his injured hand and said, "We're both so beautiful. Why kill each other?" Ning Shu's words seemed to have touched the female ghost's sore spot. She suddenly went crazy. A strong aura erupted from her body. The things in the room were blown into a mess by the strong wind. Her face began to rot and become ugly. She roared and shouted, "I'm not beautiful, not beautiful." Ning Shu was blown by the evil wind. He directly rolled to the foot of the wall and shrank. His face and body were hurt by the evil wind. Ning Shu suddenly felt as if she had hit the horse's hoof with her flattery. Ning Shu made a gesture with his hands. Since she was a ghost, she could use Taoist magic arts. However, Ning Shu was surprised to find that Taoist magic arts were useless. Was it because he didn't have spiritual chi/BK? Chapter 31-31. The female ghost fell into her own thoughts. Ning Shu looked out the window. It was dark outside. He didn't know if it was day or night. He couldn't see the sky. It was as if the sky was blocked by something. The shadows of the trees were dark, and it was silent outside. There wasn't even the sound of chickens crowing or dogs barking. It must be because the magnetic field around him was chaotic, so he couldn't use Maoshan Daoist techniques. It was as if there was no signal on his cell phone. The signal was blocked. He couldn't make a call no matter how hard he tried. Ning Shu jumped out of the window against the cold wind. The female ghost was still denying that she was beautiful. Perhaps it was because she was disgusted by his beautiful appearance. This was a village surrounded by mountains. There were also mud houses here. It looked quite backward. It was the kind of backward village. It was gloomy. It felt like he had come to a ghost village. Ning Shu didn't have a goal. He didn't know where to go. He had to avoid this female ghost now. However, Ning Shu didn't run far. A female ghost descended from the sky and appeared in front of him. The flesh on her face was curled up. There were wounds of all sizes. Some were long and deep, and the bones were visible. There were also round holes that had been pierced by something. Not only her face, but her neck and hands were also covered in wounds. They were bleeding. She opened her eyes. Ning Shu asked, "Am I really beautiful?" Ning Shu had hit the nail on the head. Moreover, the female ghost's current appearance was really not beautiful. Ning Shu said, "No, you're not beautiful at all." However, the female ghost became even more violent. The surrounding wind blew violently, and the surrounding trees were blown apart. The wind howled, and it sounded like a chill down one's spine. Even his body was so stiff that he couldn't move. "Since I'm not beautiful, why are you doing this to me? I want to kill all of you and let you die beautifully." Ning Shu was speechless. "Fuck, I can't say that you're beautiful, but I can't say that you're not beautiful either. Then what do you want people to say?" Ning Shu felt that it was fortunate that this body was heavy enough. Moreover, it was the kind of body that was covered in fat. With such a fat body, it probably wouldn't be good to look at. He had never heard of a beautiful fat person saying that. Only if it was heavy enough would it not be blown away. The ghost's face gradually recovered, and she regained her previous beautiful appearance. She said to Ning Shu, "I will let you and your husband reunite. Don't you value your man the most? He has been harassing me, but you hit me every time. I used this face to eat him up bit by bit." When he saw my face, his eyes were no longer filled with disgust. Instead, they were filled with fear. "I will also use this face to eat you up bit by bit so that you and your wife can be reunited." Ning Shu. Is human meat delicious? The female ghost was obviously stunned for a moment. Then she smiled faintly. Unexpectedly, she gave off the feeling that she was capable of causing the downfall of a city. She had the innocence and beauty of an ignorant person. "It's delicious. Every piece I eat makes me feel carefree." Ning Shu exhaled, his eyes darting left and right. What was he going to do? It seemed like he couldn't use any of his methods. This area was filled with a chaotic and violent magnetic field that could even distort spiritual power. The female ghost could use this magnetic field to do anything. Ning Shu had never seen such a huge amount of resentment. This female ghost had obviously been greatly wronged, and there were many people seeking revenge. Most likely, the people in this area were all the targets of the female ghost's revenge. If he didn't accept the counterattack, even if the mission enforcers came, they wouldn't be able to kill everyone here. After all, the law couldn't punish the masses. Even if the law were to judge, they couldn't lock up everyone in a village. At most, they would be punished. Sometimes, it was great to have more people. Obviously, it was more satisfying to take revenge on one's own. However, this kind of resentment and the extreme fear of those who had been avenged had already affected the plane. Therefore, the mission this time was to eliminate this female ghost. This was a bit difficult. It was quite sad that he had methods but couldn't use them. He didn't know if there was anyone else in this village. Could it be that the other mission enforcers hadn't come yet? The female ghost's face was beautiful. Her eyes were round and big, making her look delicate and pitiful. "Don't you love your husband the most? You can't wait to tie him to your belt. Your husband looked at me, and you slapped me and called me a vixen and a broken shoe. I didn't let him look at me. Why didn't you talk about your husband? I'll let you husband and wife reunite, okay?" The female ghost's voice was gentle. Ning Shu coughed. The place where his finger was broken was invaded by yin qi. It was piercing and his whole body was numb from the cold. "At least give me some buffer time. It's so exciting." Ning Shu stuffed a pill into his mouth and swallowed it with his saliva. It was an anti-inflammatory medicine. He was worried that it would cause inflammation and tetanus. Ning Shu smiled at the female ghost. His swollen face squeezed out some meat. Who wants to compensate that dead ghost? Ning Shu thought again. Should he leave this body and fight with this female ghost in soul form? She wouldn't die anyway. As for this body, if it liked to eat, then he could eat it. The mission reward this time was given by the main system, not by this woman. Moreover, this woman didn't sound innocent. Whether he died or not had nothing to do with her. The female ghost looked at Ning Shu and his wife with disdain. When he was alive, were you afraid that he would run away? But now, you don't even dare to die? Ning Shu shook his head. I don't dare. Men are all pigs. Why would I die for a pig? Ning Shu wanted to leave this body, but two women rushed out of the forest. One of them was holding scissors, and the other was holding a screwdriver. They were used to twist screws, and they were a little sharp. Xia Mengtao, do you want to die again? The two women said as they raised the scissors and screwdriver at the female ghost. These things were stained with mottled blood, as if they were rusted. When Xia Mengtao saw these things, she immediately screamed so loudly that her ears went deaf. She roared, "All of you must die. You must die." A strong ghostly aura erupted from her body. It was as black as ink, covering her entire body. Ning Shu and the other two rushed over. The two women gritted their teeth and raised the things in their hands at Xia Mengtao. Xia Mengtao was less than a palm's distance away from the three of them. However, when she saw the scissors, her eyes revealed a look of fear and she disappeared. Ning Shu rubbed his ears. They were a little deaf. The two women also heaved a sigh of relief. The female ghost had temporarily retreated. A woman said to Ning Shu, "Gather with the others first." Ning Shu exclaimed and asked, "What did you say?" Ning Shu was dragged to an ancestral hall by the two women. There was a faint light in the ancestral hall. Ning Shu walked in and saw many people inside. Everyone in this area was probably gathered here. /BK Chapter 31-32. The ancestral hall wasn't big. Although it was packed, there were only about 20 to 30 people. There were men, women, and old people. There were also children, but not many. There were only a few people left in this place. These people were wearing undershirts and headscarves that looked like towels tied around their heads. Seeing Ning Shu, some people showed disdain and muttered, "Fatty son, you met him right? Who told you to be so greedy and insist on running out?" Ning Shu found a place to sit down and scan these people. He didn't know which of these people were mission enforcers. The two women who had attacked him earlier might be mission enforcers. Ordinary women wouldn't have such courage. Ning Shu looked at the two women and paused for a moment. He lowered his head and treated his wound. The wound wasn't neat. At first glance, it was obvious that it had been bitten by teeth. Ning Shu felt very uncomfortable. Yin energy had entered his body, and his body was burning up. He couldn't help but approach the fire. He secretly took some fever medicine and held on for as long as he could. He finished the mission and left. Ning Shu figured out the situation and accepted the message. This was a relatively closed mountain village. During the War of Resistance, Xia Mengtao's husband had been conscripted to fight in the war. Xia Mengtao was born beautiful and was a rare beauty in the mountain village. Her husband had been gone for several years without any news. Most people thought that he had died in the war. There was a lot of trouble in front of widows, especially beautiful women. They received a lot of attention from people who looked at them. Men looked at her with eyes full of love and admiration, but behind them were disgusting thoughts and obscenities. Their minds were filled with all kinds of dirty thoughts. Women looked at her with eyes full of jealousy because the men's eyes were always on her. Things that were too extreme would attract malice. It was the same for things that were too beautiful or too ugly. Especially when Xia Mengtao hadn't protected her beautiful edge and blade. In people's hearts, beautiful women might be dissolute, shameless, and impure. Even if Xia Mengtao was clean and honest, everyone would say that she was a broken shoe. She was a broken shoe. Others have no obligation to figure out whether you are a broken shoe or not, but you have the obligation to prove that you are not a broken shoe. Her husband had not returned for a long time, which made the men in the mountain village more and more restless. If they tried to please Xia Mengtao by giving her gifts, Xia Mengtao would not accept them. These men directly threw the gifts at the door and ran away. Not long after the men started to court Xia Mengtao, some of the men's wives came and beat and scolded Xia Mengtao. They scolded Xia Mengtao for being a vixen and a loose woman who had been slept with by all the men in the mountain village. Xia Mengtao was a woman that men dreamed of sleeping with. Some men even joked that they had slept with Xia Mengtao. Actually, he didn't. He just wanted to show off. After all, that woman was what all men wanted. How satisfying to his vanity. He even said things like how much money he would give her to sleep with him. Some men were getting bolder and bolder with Xia Mengtao. They would even touch her. Once they were rejected by Xia Mengtao, these men would immediately turn hostile. Why are you pretending to be a chaste woman? Haven't you slept with someone else? Just how despairing was this? There was really no way to explain it. The women gathered together and chatted. They were all talking about how many men Xia Mengtao had seduced and who she had slept with. A certain auntie, "Did your Zhuzi also look for her?" A certain young wife, "No, my Zhuzi didn't." Many men in the mountain village had been seduced by Xia Mengtao, except for their own men. Married women should all have dark skin and lower breasts. If you don't want others to call you a loose woman, you have to darken your face and lower your breasts. No one could prove that they were pure and flawless. Then create an impure and flawless person to contrast them. Who cared if it was true or not? Pure and flawless people talked and chatted with pure and flawless people and stayed away from impure people. Otherwise, they would also be considered impure people. Everyone had to despise impure people together. Look at her. She was born to seduce men. She must be very slutty. Yes, very slutty. Yes, it was always right to agree with the majority. It would appear that one had joined the group and would not be ostracized. Humans were social animals. They followed the crowd and went with the flow. They did not want to be ostracized because they appeared different. They needed a common target to despise. They could only blame her for being too beautiful. No matter where Xia Mengtao went, there were people pointing at her. The women's eyes were filled with disgust and jealousy. The men's obscene and perverted eyes scanned every part of her body. It was so disgusting that it made people want to vomit. There was nothing wrong with being beautiful. What was wrong was that she did not have the strength to protect this beauty. If she was too different, she would be attacked by others. Those men said that they liked her and loved her while reaching out their arms to hug her. Those wives did not know how to discipline their husbands. They would only come to her. Because of the huge difference in beauty and the fact that her husband had died in battle, all men could be seduced by her. The interests of the women were challenged. Xia Mengtao was ostracized and envied by all the women. Those insensible children threw stones at her and called her a loose woman in the tribe. Perhaps these children did not know what a loose woman was. They just heard the adults say so and followed suit. Rumors, suspicions, misunderstandings, jealousy, resentment, and hatred were all added to Xia Mengtao. When the country was liberated, it was confirmed that Xia Mengtao's husband had died. Moreover, his death was not so noble. It was said that he had become a traitor. Those jealous women who were born from inferiority were like hunters who had been squatting in the grass for a long time. They seized this opportunity to raise the banner of justice and deal with the traitor's woman. It was natural. These women used scissors, needles, and screwdrivers to scratch her face. They kicked her body, scratched her breasts, and even her private parts. In private places, they were rough. Those men who had once said that they loved her and liked her ignored her. No one hated beauty. Those strange people who were too beautiful often carried ugliness in their bodies. It was something even uglier. Xia Mengtao's skin was scratched. She did not die. When it was late, a few men sneaked in and groped her body. They tainted her. There was once and a second time. Xia Mengtao was insulted by countless men. There were all kinds of men. It was so disgusting that she wanted to vomit. There were also men who said that she was really ugly. When she was beautiful, they blamed her for being beautiful. Now they said that she was ugly. Xia Mengtao died just like that. A straw mat was directly buried on the hillside. The strong resentment made her come back to life. She took revenge on everyone in the mountain village. One by one, she slowly killed and ate them. Everyone was scared out of their wits. They wanted to escape, but they were killed by Xia Mengtao immediately. No one dared to go out without permission. /BK, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.